Let's rock.
Hello, welcome Race Brain Podcast. My name is Rich Ryan, and joining me today, the one and only Brakken Crocker, not able to enjoy the beautiful 70-degree weather there in Wisconsin because he's a little bit under the weather, but he's here for us. Flu game for BK.
I made a mistake. I tried to force myself out of it. So I did a Hyrox workout Saturday,
Smart.
and I was sitting on the rower with kerosene poured down my throat, just thinking this isn't gonna work, but I'm in it. So I stayed in it, and I've been worse ever since.
Is had to give it a shot. You're a man of
50-50.
science. You're a man of
Flip of the
science. You
coin.
got to find out. Yeah, you can't just go off of what the previous information would be.
Yeah.
We have a lot to talk about today. The OCR season officially kicked off with races both in Jacksonville, which is typically our season starter, and the first ever Tough Mudder Infinity in AlUla. Then, second half of the show, we're going to have special guest Lauren Smith come on in place of Jack Bauer to help us draft in for the final major in Hyrox DC. Jack is over in Dubai chasing that bag, trying to get that.
If there was ever a goofy way of making money, it's the Gov games. Because I don't think you have any control over it.
This AlUla race might be the same. Who knows who got 4th through 30th?
It's true.
It might just be like, doesn't matter. We really don't care.
We don't honor losers.
No, and we don't even need to tell you where you finished. That's how we're gonna do things. Yeah, gotta love Jack, man. We were talking about how to work this out logistically. He's like, I'm good to record around 5 p.m. Whatever time, Dubai time. It's like fucking 6 a.m. our time. It's like, cool, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Really helping us out over here. But he's got to be locked in. He's running to the top of that Burj Khalifa tomorrow. Is it loaded too? It's like a rope. Are they wearing? They're not wearing
There's a
vests.
vest.
There is a vest.
I think so.
We saw CrossFitters do that at the Dubai Fitness Classic or whatever they call it now. So they're going to be part of that. I think that'll be actually fun.
I think it's a great pure test of aerobic capacity.
Have you done a tower race?
No.
I did a race one time it was like probably a 10-minute CrossFit WOD in like the lobby of this building in Philly,
Okay.
and then like 50 stories up. It was so hard. The indoor track cough was real, really real.
I do a decent amount of stair work, and then living in Colorado Springs for 3 years, I did the Manitou incline a lot. And what you saw out there is that it was the meeting ground for cyclists, runners, speed skaters, Nordic skiers. If you had aerobic capacity and you had muscular endurance, you could do well on that because it didn't reward economy of motion.
Right.
It doesn't reward running skill or efficiency. You just have to lift your leg up, empower your body up over and over and over. So it's like maybe the purest test of just actual engine.
I like that. Yeah, it's not skill.
Yeah.
And
every erg, you have to use it correctly to some extent.
A bike too.
Stairs, you just go.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. We don't need to talk about Jack Bauer over in the Gov games. We'll hear his recap, and it will make no sense, and we'll have no idea how it actually went for him. But I want to kind of start with the kind of zooming out, kind of like a big picture of what's actually happening here. We've talked a lot about what potentially it's going to look like, right? It's been a big focus when we talk about OCR is the news and how things have changed, where the money has gone, what that means for the competition, what that means for the fans like us who do like to be dialed into the competition. This was our first real taste. And when we're looking at it, the juxtaposition of what happened is crazy. So we had the first race at Spartan National Series with $0 in Jacksonville for the first time since ever.
Yeah, ever.
First time since ever. And on the other side of the world, we had a brand new format that's a standalone, probably won't be anything else like this unless it's just annual, with the biggest prize purse we've ever seen.
It's night and day, and they're the same company. That's the interesting
part.
Sport.
Right.
They're owned by the same parent company. Uh, I mean, to go back in time, the first race I ran in 2011 had prize money. It was very little. And you got a VJ, I mean, pre-VJ, you got an Innovate gift card
Nice.
for a pair of shoes. And now we fast forward into the future, and the national, no, not even national, North American series has no money on it. And then across the world, you've got 80K for first place, which is for a runner, that's life-changing money.
Unbelievable amounts of money. And like that, it's that close to like us, right? Like John Album's a different creature, but it's like, wow, that's like in the realm of possibility.
Yeah. You've raced
Right.
John, right?
I have never,
You've never been on a course with him?
I don't,
Technically in Tahoe.
maybe in a Tahoe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've raced John.
Right. It's the same starting line.
I could reach out and touch him.
Exactly.
He won 80,000 in a race. That's a win for me.
So I was listening to Tia Claire Toomey's new book, and it's like okay so far, but she made this mention of the difference in mentality between like an Australian athlete and a United States athlete, because she spent a lot of times competing in both regions. And in Australia, I know we've kind of seen this with pro athletes in general. Like they don't have like the winner take all killer mentality. It's like win at all cost type of stuff. Gotta turn this thing off. Goodness.
I like it. Keep it rolling.
I don't like it. But then United States is much more like that. It's like, we're here to win. You know, we're here to win money. We're here to win prizes. Yeah. And if nothing else, like that is what we're doing. And I kind of felt that and I don't know necessarily what's right or wrong. Like we found in the United States, like, right, where we want our athletes to be wired that way, the win at all cost. Ben Simmons is an example. Australian athlete, doesn't even like basketball. Doesn't want to chase it, doesn't care to win, doesn't care to be good. But it seems
that is a jaded Philly fan right there.
Hey, that's just factual. Okay. Guy doesn't even want to get off the bench. Just worried about his fits. So then when I look at these two events, right, like the athletes who are racing in Jacksonville, these are the purest, right? They're the ones that are going out there just for the love of the sport and to get out there and to test themselves in what looked to be pretty crazy conditions. Like that mud was no joke. And I'm like, I have tremendous respect for that. Like going into this, I was kind of like, who would do that? Like I wouldn't. I am wired more like the United States-based athlete. Like if I had the option between the two, I would have done AlUla, right? But these athletes who are in Jacksonville are the ones that really care about the sport, that really want to chase it, that care about the experience. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for these athletes going out there and doing that. Where most of us were looking at it like, why? What does this even do? Right. But for most of these athletes, like, what does money even offer them?
Yeah. Well, what did I text you the day before the race?
Probably something inappropriate. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah. I said, I messaged you and Jack, and I said, if there was any amount of money, I'd get on a flight right now and go down and race.
Right.
I mean, and that's my mindset, right? I'm not a pro athlete. I have no delusions of being a pro athlete. What is $500 going to change for me? Nothing.
Literally
It'll
nothing.
cover my flight.
Right.
And that's all I want. And that's enough for me. Like the fact that there's something to race for is all it takes to get me out the door and on an airplane to wherever. I flew over to Dubai one year because I had a chance to make $3,000. I was going to spend 2,000 on the trip.
Right.
You know, like it's not sensical, but it's how you're wired. That's your carrot. And these people down there racing are the people that there's a race I get to run.
Yes.
I'll be there. And it's two very different mindsets. And we, the financially motivated people, even if it doesn't affect your finances, are the ones who complain about the growth of the sport. Mm-hmm. And they are the ones who grow the sport.
Right. A lot of high level athletes were pulled to AlUla, but there are a lot of athletes who could have gone and could have raced and could have competed if there was real like love for that, I would say.
Yeah.
We just didn't see that. And that's like the thing I started thinking about more. It's like, well, yeah, like what you mentioned, this money isn't changing lives. Like John Albin's life changed, Ryan Atkins' life probably changed a little bit, right? Like, but what does money actually do here for this
It only
sport?
helps
What
the
does it
top
do?
1 to 3 people. And what it does is it gives them the ability to pursue it for another year or 2 or 3. And then that helps sustain the top end. But the people down in Jacksonville are the ones who are sustaining the industry. And there's a difference between the two. But it's fascinating how one event versus the other gives a different sense of how healthy the industry is. Like it's almost like them prize money is coming home with a bouquet of flowers.
Mm.
It changes the view of the relationship, even if it's just for show. Them putting on that money makes it feel like this industry's going somewhere. And then the next day you wake up and you're thinking, did it? Is it any different now? Are they even coming back next year? It's the same thing. Like a dozen roses is a nice, oh, he cares. He loves me. And then the next day,
and they die.
he's still sitting there on the couch with his beer, stuff still on the floor. So I don't know. I don't know what to take out of all this, but you used the perfect word, which is juxtaposition. We had 2 races going on at the same time from the same brand, essentially, with 2 totally different messages for the industry and 2 different clientele showing up.
And when I look at AlUla, right, this Tough Mudder, we spent all last week talking about it, this 8-hour format that was brand new, and like they supported athletes to get over there. And it's like, if I was looking at this, if this was Hyrox, right, and they had this kind of prize purse out there, and there's events that will follow, I'm like, this is a great sign for the growth of the sport. Like they're investing in the athletes and they want it to work. But here, I don't even understand. Like now it's, okay, you're right. Like John Albin, he like it's sustaining the top 3, maybe beyond that, maybe 10 people come out of that, men and women, and are like, wow, that was great. But like there was 0 eyeballs on it. So it's not going to help grow. So it's not going to help grow the top end of the sport because no one saw it. Like
and that remains to be seen. If a good doc comes out about it,
potentially,
it could snowball. But in the moment, it captured no eyes. If ADK was given out in the desert and no one saw it, did it affect the industry?
Like
that's the question.
Right. It got picked up by like I Run Far, right, which is like a decent publication or whatever. But like, and it was just kind of, but there's no way to watch it. There's no way to really get the details of it yet, like you said. But it was like, I just don't like. Okay, does this help the growth?
Well, no. On face value, ostensibly it doesn't, because they picked a new event. I know this event has existed, but if you had to, if someone came from outside of OCR and they said, pitch me what OCR is, somewhere down the list, 10, 12, 14 bullet points deep, you'd say Tough Mudder Infinity.
No doubt. Yeah.
So they picked this spotlight event that didn't even have a niche in the sport, really. Its only real purpose is to get people to World's Toughest. It's a qualifier for that, or it's the point between I've run a Tough Mudder and I want to do a 10-hour or 12-hour or 24-hour, and this is the bridge between the two. And they said that's the one we're going to do, and I liked it for the component, for the race atmosphere, but they didn't choose something that's scalable per se. It's not something that there's a track record for, and here's where we go after. We haven't heard what their plan is next. It wasn't like this is a series and we're going to do different distances, or this is the standardized format moving forward that is the ultimate OCR distance. It was just, it seemed plucked from a hat, 8 hours in the desert, which really felt like someone from the outside put money on a one-off, and one-offs don't help us.
So if we were to go through this and make like a pros and cons list of AlUla,
yes,
let's do it.
All right.
What do you want to do first? Pros? Want to do one and one?
I'll start with a pro, and
pros?
I'm going to go with one that probably isn't high up on our radar, but I think is worth saying. I've had several people message. When anyone says, I've had tons of people messaging, they got one message, right?
A lot of people have been asking me.
A lot of people have been asking. I got more than one message. I got many messages from people who were over there, who said the experience was phenomenal. I got 3 messages in particular from listeners of the show who were over there in more of an age group capacity, who said they felt like a pro athlete over there.
Which show?
This show.
Oh, nice. Okay, great.
Come on, I'm not going to call out Running Public on
I
here. I
gotta
know
talk
you don't
about
listen.
TRP.
Nah, shared listeners, you
Great.
and I together. They said that from the moment they got on course, they were treated like a pro athlete, both from, not both, but from the volunteers, the workers, the actual race directors and organizers, and the other pro athletes on course. That everyone there, it was the classic Tough Mudder community, right? It's a family, but it extended overseas. And for overseas workers, they said it was the one guy in particular message and said, this is what it felt like you guys described talking about the old days of the sport with the pro team where you were catered to.
Mhm.
So it sounds like the athlete experience, top to bottom, not just the Albans, people, you know, all the way down to the last person across the line felt special and like they were a part of something unique out there. And we talked about it with goofy games and other things like that, that the thing you can't quantify is how it feels to be there, the energy of being there. And apparently it was really well executed out there from that aspect.
And that was something I was thinking about. Again, I would have done AlUla to chase that bag, but also because it's exciting. It's a fun like experience.
Yeah.
It's exclusive as well, which is a pro and con, I would say. But and
it's always a pro in business, right?
For sure. Yeah, the
Always.
exclusivity is really great, and then have people talk about that and telling you and telling us that was the case. But that was something I was thinking as well. Is like the experience would be really exciting.
Yeah.
To see what it'd be like. I also think it is great that they did support these athletes. People who are out there on the grind can make a living for themselves for a little bit, you know, help support them through at least another year of training. That's great, right? Like it doesn't really help move the needle necessarily long-term for the sport and for the viewership and for the health. But for now, short-term, supporting athletes like this is amazing. Like that's crazy, this payout.
Well, and it gave supreme purpose to the off season. They paid the travel of probably a record number of OCR participants, rivaled maybe only by like the best of the Spartan World Championship years. So many people got travel paid for. And what that does is it takes the stress out of the preparations. It's not, well, I'm going to prepare for the next 3 months and then we'll see what my budget's like when it's actually time to pull the trigger on a flight. I'm going. They know that. I'm there. I'm set. Even if I come back with nothing, I paid a little bit for an awesome experience. So they gave people purpose to the doldrums of the OCR year, which is let's get ready for a sprint in February or March, but that doesn't take much work. People got to get after in the off season, and that alone is healthy for the industry. You're gonna have a lot of really fit people right now with huge amounts of base built up, all this volume, who are going to be looking to spin the wheels a little bit at races. So that is some unintended crossover for the industry.
And yeah, and I could say just from like the bit of support I've received in the last like 12 months from sponsors, I've been very fortunate from that perspective. The amount of stress that it takes off in terms of like the financial aspect from how to perform or even to get there, it's just immense. So it's very helpful to have support this way from the athlete side. Cause and then makes it feel like it's a real thing.
Elephant in the room, Con.
You want to go con now?
We have to get it out of the way.
Let's do it.
No one could see anything or track it or follow it or have any clue. We got the most sporadic updates. Once it's almost expected. Like everyone expects me to come on here and rant against it. So I'm not going to rant, but I will state a few facts. The weather did what the weather always does in the desert. It shouldn't be a surprise by this point that the winds move the sand overnight and the landscape changes. Yep. We've done this enough. We know that now, which means you have to have a protocol in place. What I'm tired of in the OCR industry, a mini little soapbox here, is that we're getting to the point where we should know better, but people don't have backup plans. Like we know coverage will invariably fail. What is the backup plan? The backup plan is wherever there's cell service, someone's in charge of constantly posting updates, even if it's just them in front of the phone giving something or updating or writing it down on the notes app. Like, what is your backup to your backup? There wasn't one in place. So while I fully understand the desert screws with you, that's what the desert does. It is inhospitable. Of course that went wrong. Power went out. Power's gone out in every desert production we've ever seen OCR try to put on. I get it. That occurs. It's not their fault. But we didn't get updates. and you had a whole world of people. This was a worldwide event trying to find some updates. And it took like 4 hours in to admit that we're not going to get this coverage on, but there wasn't then the backup. All right, here's what we're pivoting to. It still didn't occur.
Mm-hmm.
And that was disappointing that like you and I both thought Nicole won. And then suddenly we find out she got an entire lap less than someone. And
Mm-hmm.
it was how are we not aware that someone's going out for a lap? Because that's easy to post. They clearly had some cell coverage. So I'm not going to rant on here forever, but the biggest event we said maybe in OCR history, and it was a tree falling in the forest. And that was, of course, disappointing.
Yeah, I mean and like you said, like they should know better. They should have a backup plan. That's the thing. It's like, yes, the weather, they cannot control that.
No.
But like, what's did you not think of it? And I can't sit here and say like, oh, I know how to put on a production for whatever. I don't. But there should be some sort of backup plan, and a backup to the backup when you're at here. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same conversation. Does this move the needle for them? Do they care to make this a sport in any real fashion? And again, this is just like evidence toward that they don't, because this event, I had one thing down here as well, like along those lines, but this means nothing. There's nothing that we can take from this that going forward we're like, oh yeah, like this, the meaning of this big picture from a sport perspective, like it's nothing. Like tree falls in the woods. Like it could have not happened, and nothing is different now.
Yeah. Well, it's tricky because there's been a lot of talk in the last few years about power dynamics in relationships. Like that's become a very big talking point. And that was the problem with this weekend. You have Tough Mudder and Spartan who are on very shaky grounds, but with a public image to uphold.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Saudi money, which has all the power in the world, and people who have money and time and they need to do something with it get bored very easily. And something looks cool, something looks glittery. Let's try that. Their resume is going to look like sparkly thing to sparkly thing to sparkly thing to sparkly thing. So this benefits them. This is another notch on their belt. But for Spartan and Tough Mudder, who have to say yes to the money, it would be fiscally irresponsible to say no. They have to do it. And then you're the person who gets handed cab money at the end of the night, like, hey, it's time to head out.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a cool notch on your belt, but now we're stuck here hailing a cab outside at 3 a.m. and we're no better off than when we started. That's kind of how this feels to me, that one side had all the power and didn't care about what came from it next. Unless there's backroom dealings that I don't know about, and this is step one of multiple. But usually when you have a successful event, you launch with, and now tune in next time for blank. We didn't get that message. There wasn't so here's what's next to keep you on the hook. It was, we put on this cool thing in the desert, and Spartan's like, all right, we got a little bit of money. We can make it a few minutes more. So they didn't have the ability to spend it how they wanted to, because they have to just take it and plug holes with that cash. And as much as we love Matt Davis and as much as we love ORM, if you were serious about putting on a production, you wouldn't hire someone who that's not their bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
Of everything Matt does, race day production is not high on his skill list.
He hasn't done it
because
for
it's not what he was
he
trained
hasn't
in.
done it
It's
for
not
a
what-
while either. Yeah,
No,
it's not.
he doesn't have experience in it the way that a real production company would, and he doesn't have the money to throw at it. So if Saudi didn't throw money at it, Spartan sure as hell's not going to, because they can't throw their money towards it. So from the beginning, there was a conflicting power differential and aims for what the purpose of the weekend was.
So that's a good. I'm glad you brought up Matt. This is no fault of his at all, and he was instrumental in kind of getting this thing up and rolling and getting us so excited
Yeah.
about the athletes who were there and getting the athletes on board and getting them to the start line. The production should not have fallen on him.
No,
it's not his fault in any way. And along those lines, like you mentioned, like I had it as a pro, like an injection of cash, an injection of capital, right? You would imagine that they came here for that purpose. If they gave out that much money for the athletes, imagine how much money they gave to the company to put on this event. And this is like a bit of, might be out of pocket here, speaking on this behalf, and like not really where we go often here, but the idea of sports washing in this part of the world, to put on these sporting events to then kind of like overshadow some of the human rights issues that people from our country kind of scrutinize their country for.
Mm-hmm.
And I could speak to my experience at Gov Games last year in the UAE, and it did feel like you guys are here. We're going to tell you stay right here, and then we'll take you everywhere you need to go, and and we'll show you how beautiful and extravagant and how amazing it is here. And then you go home and you tell your friends that. Like, that seemed like it was like the whole purpose of that event. And like, this feels like live golf, live.
I say live.
This feels like that, right? This feels like Saudi money coming in and buying
I've never heard it said out loud.
I don't know. Is it LIV?
Yeah, but I've never heard it said out loud. Look at that.
Live golf. That's what it feels like a little bit. And that's what I thought one of the elephant in the room pieces would be as well. It's like, what is this? Why there? And like, why this much money? And for the athletes, like I participated in something like this. I would have gone. It's not up to them, and there's no other opportunities. It's not like Live Golf where it's like this PGA organization, which is American, you're no longer part of, you're over here, right? They weren't like pinning the athletes. It's like, okay, if you do this, you can no longer do Savage or Spartan.
Correct.
So from that perspective, like, it doesn't fall on the athletes, but it does just seem like, okay, this means nothing to the sport or anybody in it. So like, why does this happen? So like, that's the thing that you kind of have to draw to. It's like, oh, they're just showing that sports are valuable to them. And we like sports. Do we like sports more than human rights? Probably some people do. So
we have seasons. We get fired up about it for a little bit, but sports are constant.
Right. So from that perspective, that's not awesome. And that's like kind of at the end of the day, because it was impossible to watch. There's literally no results. Like, what was the purpose? I think it was to put on a show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my small amount of dealings with that part of the world show that they put on something every week. And what they're putting on is simply a business transaction. And they don't, I say they, I mean, just these sport councils and the tourism councils. I don't think they care if it establishes a long-term relationship or not, because it's small potatoes for their overall budget. So again, if Spartan has inked something long-term, that's really good. The source of where the money comes from, that's up for debate on whether that matters to you or not. To a lot of people, that does matter. To others, there'd be nothing more satisfying than taking money from someone who you believe in the opposite cause. I agree with both camps. I understand that it is not a great look to get bailed out by a loan shark. Not that they're a loan shark, but like the greasier side of the spoon. And the other side is really satisfying, that if you are huge on human rights and you can take money from people who are not, like, hey, it cash is the same and you get a little bit of personal pride out of that. So either side, I understand where they're coming from. So either way, it's not a positive. It's not a net positive. And I do want to circle back one more time, because it may have sounded like I was critical of Matt Davis, and I'm not. I just want to be clear on that. Yeah, I want to echo what you said. Production shouldn't have fallen on him. We all have the skill sets that we have to play with in life. It's the same way as if OCR made it to the Olympics, the production should not fall to Race Brain. Like, should one of us be in the booth? Maybe. Should the whole panel be you, me, and Jack? Absolutely not.
Now what?
That's not what we belong doing. No, we're at best, one of us is doing color. We don't belong taking people in and out of commercial breaks. I don't belong planning the schedule of events for the day. Just because I care about OCR and I play a role in it to some capacity doesn't mean I should be stretched outside that. So Matt's not at fault. He doesn't have a production company. And a production company is what would be needed to put that on. Right. It has nothing to do with him. It's just that he wouldn't put on like a college football game either. No. But a production company can put on any type of event. They could put on a Survivor production or college football, the greatest race. They could put on a game show, because production is production. Matt was chose to produce because he knows the industry, and he was put in an impossible position. Absolutely.
He didn't set up. He wasn't the one supposed to do the contingency plans if the weather got screwed up. Right. That wasn't him. Right. Yeah. I actually had it as a positive having Matt there, like that they were actually media friendly and they did include people from outside and they trusted people who do care about this sport to be part of it. So I thought it was, I think it was net positive to have Matt involved, but not to have him, because I'm sure he's catching heat. I'm sure people are like, what the world?
Yeah.
And it's like, but like, it's not.
The comments were all over the place with a shoulder raise. I can't believe there's nothing to watch, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean,
So you can't.
true, but no one sends that message to Jim Nantz. Like, you don't send it to Al Michaels.
Right.
Like, you send it to NBC. So don't send it to Matt. Like, it's just, now, did he ask to be there? Of course. He's not going to turn down money. They're giving it away.
It's great.
But I mean, you get what you pay for. And if you're not paying 6 figures for production, you're not getting a 6-figure production cost.
Yeah, imagine if they asked us to go. They're like, hey, what, you guys want to be in charge of this and come over and cover it? Be like, dude, this is amazing.
But when it hit the fan and someone had to get out there and rearrange cameras, we don't have underlings. We don't have this whole like employee structure who can hold down base camp while we're gone. Like, you get what you pay for.
For sure. So. And that's probably where like that injection of cash, and they're probably like, here you go. Like, and whoever did bankroll it was not interested in the production of it, clearly. So like, you guys do whatever you can with this money, and the production and the broadcasting of sport has just like, it's the last thing they want to do. Yeah.
Well, and if you look at the corporate structure of Spartan, there are very few people in influential roles right now who were around in the NBC days. And NBC days were really the last time where televised product positively impacted the brand, where there was like provable ROI. Ever since then, people have been trying to limp along and recapture that glory, but there aren't really many people left in the industry in that role who watched that happen. And so what they're basing their opinions off are the most recent productions, which are choppy, which don't always have the best commentating, which don't always have the best coverage, and which don't really bring new eyes to the sport. So why would I invest in something that I haven't seen any purpose for? So I understand why they don't invest in it, because they haven't seen that OCR coverage brings people in.
Right.
But when you're giving away non-OCR money, that's where it changes. What do other sports do that give this money away for their customers? That's that mindset shift that hasn't happened here in OCR.
It's just like it's just a wasted opportunity, man. Like, hopefully they did have somebody on the ground capturing it, and they're going to put it out in post, but doubtful.
Well, we've seen Matt do this. He surprised us all with his Tough Mudder documentary.
That was amazing.
If something like this happened, and that got traction for a bit there.
Yeah.
If something like that happens for a Tough Mudder, and a month or two down the road, we realize this is bringing in new eyes, then it was a success, right? Then it was absolutely a success, because it was something in a slot where we didn't expect anything. Before they announced this, we didn't really have any hopes for Tough Mudder to be leading the way for industry change. So if we get anything out of it, it's a positive.
So let's talk about the results a little bit, which we were real excited about, seeing this battle, how things kind of shook out. We did draft. Again, no results are available because the timing mats, I guess, got knocked out. They should have done popsicle sticks, man. Old school. Sticks. What's the problem? You got a 1, you got a 2. Just freaking hand it back in, write your freaking name down.
Easy peasy. Sharpie marks on your hand.
That's it. We in gym class, we had like these little rubber bracelets. Oh, yeah? And you had to do laps, and you pick one up and you put on the bracelet, you finish. You had like 10 of them. You're like, you got 10. Why didn't they just do that?
At a race one time, you had to pick up a washer from a bucket at the top of the mountain to prove you'd been up there.
There we go.
You didn't know what it was going to be. Couldn't bring a washer with you because you didn't know it was washers.
Isn't that kind of what Barclays like? Don't they do something like that where they
book pages?
Book pages. So on the men's side, John Albin takes the win. We referred to it a couple times. Ryan Atkins takes second. Mark Batres takes third, all getting about 100 kilometers over the course of. So this was 7 hours because they started it an hour late.
They went a full 8.
I thought Matt made an announcement that they were going to do. They weren't going to push it all back because it was going to get dark. So I think they made it 7. That's what I thought. Okay, and I'd heard the opposite. This is, again, two people in the industry heard two different things. Who else would know? Right. I heard they had a safe darkness time that had like 90 minutes of play in it, so that they thought they were going to be able to get the full 8 hours in. What they tell them, like on the fly? It's like, keep going. So after third, we don't know. There was a top. Let me see if I can pull up this top 10 at some hour of the day.
The announcement we saw is nothing past the podium is official. They will not confirm anything until again, this is what I heard, till Wednesday.
Yes. We've heard similar things from that perspective. But Matt did make a post of the top 10 at some point. Where it was looking like Luca Pescalderon was in the mix. Daniel Garcia, Josh Reed was in that top 10. Anthony Kunkel was there. Richard Hynek was up there. DJ was in the top 10. And Austin Azar rounds out the top 10. This was at 6 hours. So we could imagine that those athletes were at least in the top 15. Who was in 11th? Don't know. Who's in 12th? No clue. Who cares? So on the women's end, we had Alyssa Petrova take the win. Nicole Miracle with second place, and Yanka Popova. Who drafted Alyssa? Was that you? You don't even remember your team. You don't know.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
I had Alyssa Petrova and Alyssa Petrol. What did you try doing once? Jack changed Petrova and put.
Yeah, he just changed. No, he changed Yanka's last name.
Yeah, so I had Yanka and Alyssa.
You had both. You did end up getting Yanka. You blew your cover with the Yanka thing. I thought Jack ended up.
Oh, did Jack take her?
Freaking Jack!
But I also pull up our teams.
Do you have it?
Yeah, I got it.
Pull it up.
In case I ever do well, I like to keep it right up on board so that
I had my top 5. I had my top 5 down too. How'd your top 5 do?
Oh, I didn't. I don't know. I think it was all pretty even for a while because we couldn't. All we could see is everyone's top 3.
Yeah. That's a good point.
All right, so here's a screenshot of the leaderboard 7:45 in. So according to that, they went 7 hours and 45 minutes.
You have a shot of the leaderboard for that?
Yep. Jax put it into our group chat.
Oh.
3 days ago.
What's it look like?
All right, so we have John Albin, Ryan Atkins, Mark Batres, Luca Pescalderon, Daniel Garcia, which was not on our radar. Daniel outkicked his coverage. Or maybe didn't. Maybe he was supposed to be there. Joshua Reed, Elmer King. This is really blurry. Let me see here. Dasos Gonella, Anthony Kunkel, DJ Fox. Then on the women's side, at 7:45, apparently. And then women's side, Elisa Petrova, Nicole Miracle, Yanka Popova, Lindsay Webster, Esther Hortobagiova, Ulrike Evenson, Chris Roglaski, Petra Arvela, Katie Knight, and Natalia Mastrota.
Okay. I mean, my women must have been okay, I guess.
I'm sending that to you right now. Excuse me, in case you want to refer back to that.
Okay, so this was a little bit. Yeah, this is strange. Whatever. So yeah, on the women's side, Alyssa Petrova, Nicole Miracle, Yanka Popova, you mentioned it all. Lindsay was there. This was interesting. I mean, Chris, I think, is the biggest surprise out of this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
But these are the names we kind of expected. These are rock solid.
And I have Yanka and Elisa.
You did end up with both. I had Nicole, but then like Chris and Katie. I think I had Petra as well.
So I have in the top 3, I have John Albin, Elisa Petrova, Yanka Popova. Not bad.
You might be all right. And then you had Josh Reed, Elmer King.
Yep.
You might be all right.
But I have Esther. We assume Esther finished top 10.
Yeah. I mean, she was top 10 late.
Yeah.
So this thing, like, this is like looking at these results are exciting. Even just looking at them, like, wow, look at this race. Yeah. So I'll be excited when they actually do come out. If we can get a little bit more on what's going on. But yeah, I mean, these names are just awesome. This is just super fun.
And we got to see the skill sets play out over that distance. Chris, for example, said it was just too fast of running for that time domain. That's
crazy.
You know, this is that meeting ground. It's longer than sub ultra, shorter than 24 hour. And there's that switch over.
And that's what we talked about with maybe this is crystal ball wish list. Let's just make, or in the past, just make OCR just all ultra.
Trifecta and ultra.
Trifecta and ultra. We like it. This was fun. People will probably be able to come in and do a little bit better than what they would be able to do on like a super or a beast or something from outside of the sport. So yeah, very interesting. On the team side of things, we had the French team, Thibault Jean and Gregory Basilico, beat Tyler Veerman and Chris Bob Brown. That's crazy to me.
It just shows that there's levels of running out there and that there's different versions of running. Because Tyler Veerman is phenomenal at OCR running, but this seemed to be slightly different than OCR running. This was more akin to trail running.
I guess, but he's good at the trails too. So is Chris.
Well, he's good, but Tyler wouldn't be like a Golden Trail Series contender.
What with Thibault Jean?
Where Luca might be. And Gregory might be.
Yeah. But Thibault, I don't know. Really? I don't. Who knows? What?
Anyway, it's just horses for courses. That whole thing.
Yeah.
Beat anyone that beats Veerman and KBB.
But Gregory Basilico, he is like the top 3 OCR athlete if you have to draft, right? Like you're picking him. If you had to start a team around somebody, he'd be up there.
And most importantly, if you wanted to translate that team over to pure running, he'd still be a top 3 pick.
In the 4-person team, the European elite with Jesse De Hare, I forget Legrand's first name, Luca Pisani, they would take the win. And then the team, Steen Legrand, yes, you're right. And then the team that would been probably Dubai based with Sergey Pereligan on it.
Yeah.
And some names that I'm not going to try to pronounce. No chance. And then VJ's team, VJ, Nikolai Dam, TVT, and Manuel Dufault. They got 3rd out of 4.
So what was the and Nikolai did Leon was out. So what was the intel on that? I'm sure you talked to VJ a little bit. What was the race differentiator?
I actually haven't really connected. I don't really know. I don't know anything about it.
He just got worked.
I think he just got it worked.
That'll happen. Yeah. That's a long time to run. People are like, oh, we just run 10K laps. But when you think about that, if you wanted someone to go out and do 4x10K, which athlete would you choose for that? At some point, that becomes a grind, and you've got to be able to do it hard.
You don't know, right?
If your running falls off a little, you can start losing a minute per mile.
VJ mentioned in like a story that he may have sprained his foot a little bit. So something like that, things like that could happen. Things like that could happen to Tyler and Chris. But yeah, amazing. That was, I mean, the results on the men's side were pretty close to chalk. I actually did not have Batris that high because I'm a fool. But I think Jack did. Jack was like pretty confident that, and I think you had Batris. Thinking it was
we knew he could if he was him.
Yeah,
he's just that good.
That's true. And I had like Josh in the top 3, Austin Azar up there, and I had SSW Sean Stevens Whale in the top 5. I thought he would do well, but I haven't heard.
Okay, speaking of not hearing, I didn't hear what they ended up choosing for the hot lap, for the money lap.
Oh, I don't know.
The athletes were talking about it the day before the race that they still hadn't heard confirmation on which lap counts, or does any lap count? Can it be the first? Does it have to be the 3rd lap? They hadn't yet decided, because there was that poll, who's going to win the hot lap, who's going to whatever. And athletes were like, well, it's going to depend on which lap they decide counts.
That's interesting. That's kind of fun. If it was like the 3rd lap
or second,
second
would be crazy.
Yeah. Because the first, second would be bad news for everybody. Yeah, that would just kind of be mean. I don't know,
but it changes things.
Big
time. But you didn't hear.
I didn't hear anything.
No.
My ear's not on the ground. I'm not plugged in over there yet. Let's move along. Let's talk about the Jacksonville Sprint. We got Lauren coming on again. We're going to talk Hyrox here in about 15 minutes. But we were able to get some eyes on there. BK decided he was good. I'm not trying to have my voice over on this. It was old school. He said like your favorite race when we talked about what the best races to watch to go back on YouTube. You said 2020 Jacksonville, where there was no commentators. That's what we got. They actually did. That was the exact conversation, covering both men and women at the same time somehow.
Yeah. There was a struggle to get rabbits. The cell coverage was almost non-existent, so they were unable to live stream. So they pivoted right away. Jason Dupree made the call to, we are going to record it to the phones and then do a post-race quick, slap it together, and then we will go on live and you will announce over the top live, having not seen it before, real quick after. And then due to the nature of the cell coverage and Wi-Fi, the uploads wouldn't go. It was something like hours per stream to upload. And so eventually we just made that exact decision. Well, listen, let's just go gritty. Let's do no commentary. Let's just let them hear breathing and feet slapping and get something that is visually appealing up there, and that'll stand the test of time. So that's what it was. I don't want to say reduced to. That's what the plan was reduced to, but the product, I don't know how much of a reduction that really is, because what would you rather hear? Me speculating for 60 minutes about what might happen on glitchy screen, or crystal clear footage?
Yeah, the
just
footage
not hearing me talk. You want the footage?
Probably the footage. It would be nice to have a little bit of the preamble of it, like here's who's here, here's what to look out for, here's what everybody looks like, here's what the deal is. And it did a little bit of that with no commentator over top actually explaining it. But whatever. So we had Lawrence Taylor taking the win on the men's side. I think that's Jack's rival. I'm just saying it. I don't know why. I'm just like, this dude just eats Jack's lunch. And then Mike Strobel finishing in second, Ethan Brown in third. That was a battle. There was barbed wire to finish. Like muddy ass, like kind of like the barbed wire where you didn't have to like roll or crawl. Looks like you kind of duck in and out of it. But this was a muddy disaster. It looked like there was so much mud out there from start to finish. So we've seen this at Jacksonville before, where the mud is basically the obstacle.
Yep.
And whoever can manage it the best. Top five, Addison Coles was fourth. Brian Beal was the second, was in fifth. Yeah, it looks like they had about 20 or so athletes out there. On the women's end, we had Annie Doobie. We didn't even know she was going to show out.
Did you even know?
I did not know. Then there she was, crushing people.
All right, to me, I'm going to pause you. This is a dangerous situation for her.
Why?
For anyone in that situation, because across the board, she would stand up as the clear-cut top pro there.
Mm-hmm.
In the men's field, I would say there were no quote-unquote elite pro athletes.
Agreed.
A lot of very good athletes, a lot of parity, but no superstars of the sport showed up.
I wouldn't have
known.
On the
female side,
right?
Yeah, on the female side, she was the only superstar of the sport that showed up. There were other very solid women there. There were other women that you would say are legit pro athlete. You would have, like, in terms of pro racing, you have Heller, you have Monroe,
yep.
People like that who are absolute Spartan pros. Yep. But she was the only superstar there. So for the whole weekend, out of the entire men's and women's field, she's the only one who shows up. And best case scenario is you do what you're supposed to do.
Right.
But you're on a nasty, sloppy course where you're going to have no adrenaline because everyone's just going to be sitting there looking at you at the start line, and you're expected to go run fast. And it's so caked with mud that a mistake is really easy. And as we saw, almost no one ran clean across the board with no vert, no technically tricky, one technically tricky obstacle, the finish to the Z-wall, which people didn't even see coming until they got to it. I think Heller's was the best. She came around the corner and she went, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
But so Annie just put herself in a kind of a lose-lose situation almost, and she did extremely well to come out the way she did.
Yeah, I mean, she's has the experience at this point that I don't think big races are going to fluster her in any way. I don't know, because she'd probably look at this and be like, I should win. Right. I don't even know if she's wired
one spear.
Like that. Right.
The targets are small now. You come in here, you glance it off the side, and it's only a 5K.
And she
no
did
time
miss.
to make it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Annie did win. Hannah Francosa. Is that what he said?
Yeah, Kirk coaches her.
Oh, nice.
She got 68 miles in a backyard ultra, 4 weeks prior.
Oh, great. Okay, so
she's an ultra person coming down to this.
You guys were locked into that, and with this mud, basically it was like an ultra shuffle anyway. And then
Casey showed out.
She was great. She took advantage. I do want to talk about that Z-wall quick, but Casey Monroe finishing third, Ashley Heller fourth. I'm sorry, they were kind of in a battle for that final podium spot. Cassandra Gill fifth, Rachel Waters sixth. And I think Sarah Grippy I think she was the one who dove across the line. Did you catch that?
That was coming out of the barbed wire crawl.
Yeah.
One person stumbled forward the last 10 feet, and the other dove.
Went for it. Loved it.
It's me and Logan.
All over again. That's everything comes back to Michigan Sprint. BK taking that W. We should have seen you down there.
It's the last great race of Spartan history, is what it's going to go down as.
I mean, it's going to be in the conversation. Can't rule it out.
I think it's a done deal.
So the mud was a huge factor here. The Z-Wall, which we've seen some prototype of Z-Wall a couple times that has like monkey bars hanging from it, like kind of like like a more advanced version.
You've seen a Z-Wall with monkey bars?
I think at West Virginia a couple years ago they had, instead of like those ropes, it was just like protruding bars that you had to traverse.
Yeah.
So these were ropes that were just dangling straight down.
We saw a cargo net once, didn't we, on the side?
Oh, really?
Down. Yeah.
This seemed very hard because it was just ropes that were dangling down. I think there was about 4 ropes.
Like 2 feet long, tops.
And no footholds.
The cutout was still there.
The cutout was there.
Cutout was the game changer.
That was because, like, and you can like with Olympus, where you can get your feet up or put your knees against it. Yeah. Like that's what you kind of needed. But this was just either lockout strength or that's really it. Like your feet and aren't the women really gonna help.
Their frame is, most of them are far too short to get any amount of their butt backwards and their foot against the bottom because the gap's too big.
It's way too big.
So their toes are just scrabbling, trying not to touch the top.
Right. I don't know if you could grab the top of the ropes. Ashley Heller was going for that. They were letting them, which I mean, like this was really hard. I don't blame that at all. And that's the thing. If they're not gonna say no, do it. Then the thing that seemed to be the biggest game changer, we saw Hannah do this, was if you had an option to take the last turn blind or to take it where you have a foothold, Hannah had grabbed one, used the foothold, and swung just once and hit the bell. So kind of like your move and what VJ does where you kind of jump and hit it, like having that rope, it's a massive advantage. If you're going to go the other direction, you need to be super strong. But there's no reason to go the blind curve last if there's going to be ropes.
No, it's still the same rules of old Z-Wall, which is you have to end on the concave corner. You do not want to go around blind. But what that means is you have to start opposite. So you saw so many of the guys run up and look at it and choose, all right, I'm going blind corner first because then I get to go, and then they get around to the other side. What is this? There's another turn. So you have to mount it the opposite way you normally mount it.
Because there was one extra turn.
Because there's a whole extra panel on it.
God.
And so I think a lot of people made the correct tactical decision because as they came up, they weren't really.
We did hear a guy say that once. Like, where am I? Kind of. He's like, oh, more or something like that.
Yeah. So for what it looked like to me is you mounted it correctly and you were punished for it. But if you had that and someone jumped across, it looked like one person, and maybe that was the swing I saw, but you want the blind corner, not last.
No, that was
Annie just muscled right across. She locked out. I was impressed.
And that is something like I was interested to see how that would go for her because her grip is just so good and she's pretty advanced when it comes to like things like bouldering, and she's been doing some ice climbing, and so the ice climbing thing probably helped a lot, right? Where it's just kind of like holding a vertical pole, and so I would imagine that is going to be a bit of a game changer. I mean, it was an absolute game changer at this event.
Z-Wall is just a formality until weather hits at most courses. Worst case is it slows you down a little bit. It's no longer a formality. And now if it's wet or muddy, we all know how slick those black ropes are.
Yeah.
It's the main reason people grip above it anyway. A, it's easier, but B, those ropes are so slick, especially if you get a new one or a wet one. And so now finishing off at the end of that, it's no joke.
That's a pretty decent segue. And let's do this as we are waiting for Lauren to pop on. But so this is the first stop. Next stop is going to be Big Bear in May. Last stop is Utah in July. Right. So I mean, those are courses that are really up Annie's alley. So if she decides that she wants to pursue this, she's basically got it in the bag.
It's kind of over.
Yeah. But the transition, the new equipment is what we saw for the first time in Fort Lauderdale Hyrox. We saw the introduction.
Can I say one last thing?
One last thing
before we move on. Yeah.
You get one last thing.
Watching Jacksonville. Now, granted, we didn't have the superstar pros there. The running pace between compromised OCR and open running 8 hour, the strides didn't look a lot different.
No.
that 8 hour difference, the running in OCR is so slow unless you're at like some sort of SoCal race or a hard Jacksonville course, hard packed. The running is so slow because of terrain and compromise that it didn't look visually worse doing an 8 hour race. In fact, it maybe looked better. It was more
Maybe.
appealing. So I just to confirm let's just make all of OCR trifecta in ultra. It's almost more impressive to watch
I
because
agree.
the only way to ever make it fast is to have long stretches of running. Even the 3K is not fast looking,
No,
other than maybe in Mexico. That was the only time we saw fast running.
like how compromised athletes get and like the mud and everything. Yeah, it's just not going to. It just doesn't look that great.
But the visual, watching John get up and run away and watching guys get up and run in Jacksonville, I thought John's running every bit as fast as them and he's doing 8 hours.
But he probably was, yeah.
Right. Just crazy visual. So anyway, yes, new equipment in Hyrox. We have Thor himself sponsoring the race.
Big. Is that your best Hemsworth? Have we talked about did we rank the Hemsworths?
Oh, he's the best Hemsworth.
He's got to be the best Hemsworth, right?
Yeah. You seen Extraction?
No, I have not. I see.
Yeah, that's worth watching.
Triple Frontier.
Next one.
I don't think that's him, but it's basically, is that the same thing?
No.
Yes, it is.
Extraction is just a pure fist fighting and gunplay extravaganza.
It's on Netflix, right?
Oh yeah.
Dylan Scott was the story down in Fort Lauderdale, putting out a crazy time, 55:34, which he is in it will be in DC from a roll down, but this would have secured him a spot if this was a week earlier. The sleds were new, right? From all accounts, everybody I've talked to, sled push felt fast.
Have you figured out why? Because I have a feeling.
It's just new equipment. It's just like not.
Yeah, but why the pole? Why is the pole no faster?
It had to have been faster.
A little, because you came off the sled push a little more gassed because you went fast.
Because you kept going. Yeah.
The poles are tall, Rich.
Oh, are they?
And that doesn't help you on the pole one bit because the anchor point's still low. But how tall those poles are changes your leg stress, as we both know on that sled. Like, try gripping your sled lower down, like we used to have to do for the old Hyrox sleds. That was
early theory. That was an early Brakken theory. The pole height,
and it still plays because now they've raised it up a little bit, and the sleds got faster. And now these new ones have the highest poles we've seen yet. If you look at people's form, people who use the elbow crook, they're almost vertical.
That's great.
That will change the push, and that will not impact the pole whatsoever.
But the new bottoms of the sled, maybe I guess that might not be the biggest. Sure. That should help. I know.
100% that helps.
Usually, I think Greg over at Rocks Life, he'll take the average of the sleds and compare them to the season mean. I would imagine these were both faster on both ends. I mean, the sled push, Dylan pushed it in 2:17. A good push historically for Dylan is like 3:15, 3:30.
Yeah.
So there's definitely time there. And if this was a European racer, I'd be like, that's why. But since it's Dylan, you got to look at these splits later. Like,
these splits were otherworldly.
2:06 on burpee broad jumps. Usually what happens is someone pushes the sled in under 2:30, pulls it around 3:30 or 4, and then gives back a minute and a half on burpee broad jumps and does like 3:30. And then their run stinks somewhere in there.
Which we saw some of this weekend. We saw some 3:30s in the burpee broad jumps.
Oh, I'm sure. And like they end up running 57 in Europe, 58 in Europe.
Yep.
But 2:06 for burpee broad jumps, and then his running didn't really slow at all.
He got a second faster, I think.
Yeah. So, and then he gets on the row. He's a monster. His running stays consistent all the way through. Sandbag lunges in 2:34, which if this was a European course, I'd be like, that was mismeasured, which
I would have said their out and backs were both mismeasured. That's what I would have said. And they said something about the lines they put on the ground. Did you see that with lunges and burpee broad jumps? No. There's the regular gray or white, but then they put a yellow tape line down and you had to stay by that. It was like a 8-inch or 10-inch difference. And they're like accounting for measurements. So if you were going to play conspiracy theory, you would have said, yeah, it's just mismarked because both of the out and backs were so fast. But at the same time, his work rate looked correct.
Yeah. But I mean,
throughout the whole race.
Have we ever seen that?
234 is otherworldly.
Usually if you're like 250, you're winning world championships.
I remember when Austin Azar won 259, and on this show you said Austin Azar 259. There's no one on this planet who
He's like the best
20
at
seconds.
It. Yeah, but so again, if I was looking at this just as a sled and trying to explain it away, the burpee broad jumps and then the lunges are like, and the running in between everything is like, dude is ready.
Although if you looked at his running, his stride spoke to that time. He looked fast. Like he was running with purpose. Every time he had to move around someone, he accelerated. It was the most aggressive running I've seen from him visually.
So he'll be,
and it falls in line with the break. Kirk and I just did an episode on breakthroughs yesterday. When to expect a breakthrough. We basically said that oftentimes when you've been doing a ton of work and a lot of it's not maximal, you need a big, bad feeling effort in order to crack through like the crust a little bit. And Dylan was telling everyone that he was super fit and he went out and didn't have his race. And then a few weeks later had a breakthrough race. And I think you're probably looking at the same type of deal coming up here, that he was who he thought he was. It just took a few weeks for it to kind of rise to the top. He was primed for this to occur.
And he ran that a 15K on the road a week before and averaged about 5:30 is pretty good. So maybe that wasn't, again, one of those things to kind of like, let's put myself there and then have that feeling kind of go through. Let's rock these results really quick. Jesse Bruce finished in second, 61.46. Mark Polzin from Wisconsin, he finished 62.14. Keith Hardwick was 63.07. Adam DeFulio was 63.54. And these times from these athletes are in line with what they typically run. Like
Jesse had done, what did he do? 61.30 something?
Something like that. He's like, this is right around where
he's done 61.40 before. He did the European thing. He had a faster one part and then it balanced out on the other and he ran within like 10 or 20 seconds of his PR again.
And let's touch on the women. Jess Petro taking the win, 64.31. Great race for her. Great breakout. Her and Morgan Scholes were battling until about the lunges, I think, is where Jess kind of put a bit of a gap on. But Morgan with a 2-minute PR, 65.40. Bridget Brown coming back 5 months postpartum, running a PR, 67.47. Jen Thompson was 69, and Hannah Cook was 70.47. So the two athletes at the top, Jess and Morgan, if this was a week earlier, they would have put themselves in position to be in the top 30 and would be in this major upcoming. So just kind of unfortunate how these races kind of played out, but great results on for the US based women.
In 5 months postpartum is so impressive. That's right at the short end of the window of what you could possibly expect someone to have, like raceable fitness and full trust in their body. That's really, really impressive to me.
Amazing. Yeah. And I mean, I work, Bridget and I are close. So I know that her training has been like, I mean, this is her fourth kid. And like, she's trying to juggle everything. And like her schedule wasn't the same that it's been. And so she just did whatever she could to get herself back into fitness and was able to run a PR. It was crazy. I was like, this is nuts. So
you know what this result says to me? Morgan Schultz is going to be a problem in DecaFit this year.
I mean, she's a problem. She's a world champ last year. She's been a problem.
Right. But it was kind of, some people talked about, is this like the equivalent of Chris Rogowski winning Hyrox, that like she got it at the right time and Meg wasn't there and all that. She's a mid-distance runner. She was an 800-meter runner. Hyrox is as far away from 800 meters as you're going to get in the hybrid world, and she's PRing by 2 minutes in that. She's only going to be better at DECA than she is at Hyrox. She's going to be an issue for women this year.
I think she's a shot to punch a ticket at the last chance qualifier. I think she could be at Worlds. I do too. I think she could be at Worlds. All right, we got to start talking about what's coming up. Let's bring in Lauren Smith.
All right.
So we have the final major coming up in Hyrox DC. We have super special guest Lauren Smith with us. There she is. What's up?
Perfect timing, eh? With my video camera there.
Just on point. Couldn't have got it any more clear.
Look how beautiful you guys look with your backdrops and your proper lighting.
Thank you. That's
could have
so
just
nice.
Stopped after look.
Beautiful look, yeah.
I was going to say,
Lauren, we haven't met ever in person, but I have to tell you that every single person in my world has complimented you on how incredible you work the sidelines in the booth for Hyrox. And
oh, thank you. That's so nice.
And they all in my world want to support me, And so they never say anything nice about anyone else. And so for the fact that they'll say that is really big. And you've brought something that has been lacking in this industry. So I'm leading with, just like you said, we're beautiful. You're really good at your job.
Oh, thank you so much. That means actually so much.
So we are here to draft. This is groundbreaking. We've never had a guest come on to do a draft with us. We're being very nice right now, but I'm done. I'm not going to be nice during this draft. We are competing here. So
game on, boys.
That's it. That's it. So yes, Lauren has been on the sidelines in the two of the past 3 majors. You may have seen her at the sidelines on CrossFit at the CrossFit Games as well, or strongman competitions. You're involved in strongman.
Oh, I spent the last week doing indoor rowing, guys. I can tell you that's different.
Really?
That's a new one.
How was that? Like, would you just have to? How long of an event?
2 days from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, or maybe till like 7 at night. 2,000 meters, 500 meters, and then some para distances. It is full on. It is constant go, go, go. It's great fun though. And also what we've learned is actual rowers are so much better than Hyrox and CrossFit athletes on rowers.
It's crazy.
So much faster.
Way, way better. Way, way better. Yeah, you're going to be.
But long story short, that was a tangent.
You're going to be talking shit about how bad we're rowing this weekend. Be like, yeah, 148.
Rich, I do that about you anyway.
As well, you should.
If I'm on screen enough, this time I'm going to be on screen and it's going to happen. All right, so we are here to draft. Again, this is the last major coming up. So we have a couple of spots available when it comes to qualifying for the World Championships. This is the last chance in a major before the last chance qualifiers that will be in Germany. Is it
Cologne and Anaheim?
And
Cologne and Anaheim.
Cologne. Yeah. Cologne. So we did get the name of participants that have come out, but on the women's side, we have currently 7 athletes qualified for World Championships, 4 of which are going to be in this race. So there would probably only be 1 or 2 spots available, depending on how all of those athletes race. On the men's side, we have 9 total athletes qualified through, and I think only 2 of them will be at this race. So on the men's side, it's wide open.
You're looking at least 3 qualification spots in the men and up to 2, more likely 1 on the women's side. It's not bad, is it?
So
it's going to decide a lot.
It's going to roll down to the 5th, no matter what, on the men's. Okay, so that's what we need. That's really what we're looking for, is who's going to secure those top 5 on the men's side. And on the women's, it could just be 1. It will.
And I know the athletes won't like that much, because it really narrows the scope of what a successful race can look like and how you have to run to get that. But I really like it from a last chance qualifier standpoint, because it elevates those. My worry at the beginning of the year is that those were going to be formalities. You're going to have 30 or 40 also rans who show up with, a hope and a dream and no real chance. But now you're going to have a lot of legit athletes show up, and they're all going to be there for the same thing. It's going to be like a last chance qualifier in the track and field world, which is a really exciting atmosphere to be in for running. And I cannot wait to see that in the hybrid space, where people are showing up to only do one thing, like screw race tactics. We're all just running fast today.
I think in the women's in particular, you might end up with about 7 qualifying spots coming out of those 2 LCQs. Men's, it's a little bit more.
It's only going to be
done
3
by then.
Yeah,
you might only get 3 over 2 races. So then it becomes this really intense race.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's made Washington DC all the more important. If there's only 1 or 2 qualifying slots outside of DC is now like a real big opportunity for the athletes who have chosen to travel.
And you got to think
they're going to have to chat with each other. Where are we going to go? What venue do we want? Where are we going to show up and run fast together? There's no more of the games to play. Now they've got to get on the same side for last chance qualifiers.
Well, the European based one in Cologne, it's only going to have 1. Whoever wins is going to go. And that could be, so currently it's athletes like, JK is coming over, James Kelly and Graham Holiday will be over as well. But athletes like Tobias, Lucas is coming over, so he might qualify, but it could be like JK, Graham Holiday, Tobias Lautving, Lucas Storath, Jonathan Wynn, Florian Gass, like 6 guys at this race for 1 spot. And that's if athletes like myself or David Magida don't go over there. It could be 1 spot for 8 guys, 8 worthy guys. And The U.S. one will be interesting because it is based in California. If any European athletes will make their way over, that is just like a tall order. It would be real expensive, and just like the time difference would just be insane. Not saying that they wouldn't, and only 3 weeks out from World Championships, but that last chance qualifier in Europe could be crazy.
Yep.
That's Hogan department right there.
Yeah.
Just make your way over to Hong Kong.
They're going to Hong Kong and just praying.
Yep.
That's exactly what it is.
Never in doubt.
All right, so let's get into some drafting. What we do here, we do snake style draft. We have 14 men and 14 women. Something that Hyrox does is they do not roll down past the top 30. So I'm assuming that's what happened. I would love if they would like reach out to Jess Petro or Morgan and be like, hey, there's a spot available.
Yeah.
Could you come? But since it wasn't 2 weeks out, they are capping this field at 14. Because, I guess it rolled all the way down, and a couple athletes, the German athletes or Dubai-based athletes, decided not to come over on the men's side.
We need a Palio clause. He's the shining example of what can happen if you give that 15th spot away at the last minute.
Yeah.
So we're drafting snake style here. We're going to do 4 men, 4 women, 1 wild card. We can draft them in any order that we want, and we will do Wheel of Names to decide draft order. When we do the Wheel of Names, Lauren, you get to pick what order you want. So like if you get the first, if it pops onto you and you want the second pick, you can take the second pick.
Have you played fantasy sports of any sort?
Absolutely not. This is not my my arena. I did
you know what
once,
snake style means?
Going that way and then going back.
All right. Yeah. So drafting first and third, you get a back-to-back pick every other round, but then there's a long wait in between. So
you tell me when I pick and I will pick.
No, you're locked in.
No, as soon as this starts, we're not helping you one bit. I just want to get ahead of it now.
Exactly. Anything I'm missing, BK?
No, I just think that anyone across the pond is at an inherent disadvantage for fantasy sports because they're not as cool as we are and they don't play fantasy things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's definitely not as big over here. I started a fantasy
football?
rugby team at the top of the Six Nations, and after week 1, I forgot it existed.
Cricket, fantasy cricket, BK.
I'm in.
Where did that come from?
You guys play cricket, right?
Yeah, we do, but
See?
there was a curveball suggestion from the American.
Hey, we're out here, or it could be proper football. We play regular fantasy football. You guys could do the old school style. I have a draft board, not as fancy as what we're used to, but let's get this Wheel of Names popping. What do we think? Share the screen.
It's not a draft if there's no Wheel of Names.
Got the Wheel of Names.
Lauren, you're in for a real treat here.
I'm very look at those bright colors.
No, wait, hold on. We got to show this full screen.
Yeah,
bang, full screen on there too. All right, here we go.
Lads, you've blown me away.
Production value here at Race Brain.
It's all down. Yes.
All right, BK.
As it should be.
All right, BK.
Ooh.
Which pick do you want?
I want the 2.
2 spot.
2 spot.
All right. Here we go. Oh, that's all me. That's all me. You took the
It's
2
rigged.
spot.
It's rigged, goddammit.
I told you we're not going to be nice right from the start. We appreciate you being here, but you're drafting last. I mean,
is this what we're reduced to today?
Come on.
Jack didn't give you the spreadsheet?
Jack would make it way too confusing. This took me like 2 seconds and we're all good.
Oh, it's so small.
It's better than my piece of paper I made.
Yeah, I was trying to find this list. Lauren's like, well, it's like transcribed by pen. I might have to send it your way. I'm like, we'll figure it out. I'm taking... I don't know what to do here, but I'm going first.
You gotta.
I don't know.
Yeah, it'd been weird if you didn't.
Well, I don't think it's like, I have my reasons and I'll explain. All right. Are we ready to do this? Do you guys see the screen? We're good to go?
Mm-hmm.
All right. With the first pick.
You got to zoom in. This is terrible.
What do you mean you got to zoom in?
I rarely miss Jack, but I miss Jack right now.
Come on now.
I'm mostly excited that I can see all of your tabs and what you regularly look at online.
It's all only Hyrox all the time. I'm like, who finished there? What about there? What's the qualification at now? How's SBK?
Using Chat GPT for your coaching these days, Rich?
Where's Chat GPT?
It's in your bookmarks.
Oh yeah. I like to have it around. I like to have it around. All right, first pick. I'm taking Meg Jacoby here.
Oh, this is gonna be a masterclass today. And
I'm going Command Dex. Don't think I won't do Command Dex. I know what the deal. But I'm taking Meg. Meg won the first 2 majors. She took a lump last time. Lauren came out and gave her just punched her in the mouth early, and it was kind of over before there was even like a reaction. And Lauren had a different race tactic than what we've typically seen of her, where she'll usually hammer from the front. She did that, but like 5 minutes later than she typically would. And we saw that it paid off for her with on the sled push and just put a ton of time on her real early. So if Meg can maintain contact and be willing to cover the move when it happens, I think that she will be able to overtake her in the later aspects of the race. And also, Lauren might just go out hard again. Lauren may just be like, get excited, feel fit, and might just hammer. And if she hammers from the front and Meg just kind of covers that gap how she did in the first 2, I think we'll see a very similar result. However, Lauren did just set the world record in a very impressive way. And these sleds are going to move better. So I'm not sure who that really favors in this. Like Lauren. Meg's the better runner, So if it takes less out of Meg's legs,
I'm no longer convinced.
Line them up.
Hyrox running. I'm no longer convinced.
There's only one
run. There's only one run in Hyrox, and it's the first one, and you can't use it. Mm-hmm. After that, it's all Hyrox running.
But if the Hyrox running will fundamentally change if those sleds aren't as hard.
Yeah, I think it gets harder.
You think the running's harder?
Yeah, you get less rest. Your heart rate doesn't drop. Output gets higher. I think it's different. Same, but different. So just pencil me in for Lauren right away. I'm not even taking a man.
All right.
Listen.
I don't know. Like, obviously, Rich should have known Meg off the back of losing to Lauren a couple of weeks ago, or not losing to Lauren, because second to Lauren a couple of weeks ago. Just from a mental perspective, she's not the kind of girl that goes, "Oh yeah, that's okay." Like she's the one that we're going to see a reaction from because that happened. And I know it wasn't about Lauren; it was about her not performing to her own ability. But I have no doubt Meg's going to absolutely boss this next race.
This is going to be an absolute battle.
This may be better than world champions.
We haven't really seen a battle from the 2 of them yet this season.
No.
And I think this is what we're going to get. And this is like really what we've been looking forward to from the start of the season. I think we're going to get it here.
Death, taxes, and Meg and Lauren at 1-2. That's all you can count on in this world. On the men's side, there are a lot of men who can win. There are only 2 women. And so Lauren's the obvious pick here because she will not be worse than second. Rich, I know you never listen to my podcast just to purely spite me, but we had Lauren on last week. Mm-hmm. And the first time we had her on, we talked all about her story and her as a person. This was all about her training, her mindset, how she executes. And she talked about her race strategy. Kirk asked her, what is a bad race for you? And she said she's never had a bad race in her life because her only goal is to work hard the entire time. And as long as she doesn't quit or back off, it's not a bad race. And that just cemented to me that you can't beat her. You can finish ahead of her, but you can't beat her because she's not racing you.
That's such a fair comment. And it really comes across in her demeanor when she's racing as well. Like it's not an emotionally charged performance ever, really, in the same way that you see from some of the athletes.
And for some people, I would think that they're just putting on airs or a show. And I believe it with her. So give me Lauren Weeks.
I believe it too. I mean, even the races where she doesn't finish first, she doesn't finish 5th. You know, she gets second because like she'll battle wherever they are. And there's been races in the past, I think Chicago last year, where Michaela and Meg had both passed her. And then it was Alondra was coming up on her, and then a lot of athletes would just fold and just be like, hey, it's not my day. Not Lauren. She battled her to the end and went unbroken on wall balls and finished third. So good
There's
pick.
only one way to kick her off the podium, and that's ensure that she's extremely pregnant on race day. And that's not happening right now.
This is apparently it's not going to in the cards, not in my research for this race. All right, Lauren, you're up.
Sorry, I've just got a dog going mental at something outside the window. I'm going to kick off the men's. My pick is, we've already mentioned his name, Pelayo Fernandez, because he has just got better and better and better. A second in Vienna. Am I saying he's going to take top spot? I think I am.
That is what you're
I've got it
saying.
between him and Ryan Kent. I think he's shown more consistency and constant progression. Not to mention with the lighter sleds and the potential that it might impact the run, Pelayo would be the guy I'd look to take advantage of that the most. He's naturally a running athlete, and a lighter sled's only going to favor that for him. And to an extent, like Lauren, he doesn't put this expectation on himself. And I think if you go into a race lighter in that regard, it almost like it opens up the opportunity for better and stronger performances. But also, he's like the coolest, nicest dude you'll ever get to meet.
He's the best in the world. I agree with that. I actually had that thought about Pelayo, about like if he might start feeling pressure, like he's performing well, there's more eyeballs on him. How's it going to go? But like, I think he'll just go out and do his thing no matter what. He'll run fast. He'll execute where he can. And sometimes the stations go well for him. Other times, maybe not as solid. But I'm with you, Lauren. I don't think he's putting expectations on himself for this. And he has finished on the podium last time, and he has a great shot to do it this time.
His bad race in Stockholm came from travel. He traveled out to Vienna early, had time on the ground. Now he's back at home. I mean, Chicago to DC, a couple hours in an airplane.
Easy.
Like, I don't see that bad race happening again.
Well, part of the reason I was so confident in my Lauren pick is because I knew Pelayo would come back around to me, and I was convinced that this is his win. And here everyone's just imploding it. So
you think he's going to win too?
Gutted.
I do. I think now this is all assuming that Ryan Kent doesn't pop, because he and Pelayo are the exact opposite racers mentally. When you build things up, you boom or bust. And I think that's Ryan. When Ryan's on, he is such a dog and you cannot beat him. But Pelayo doesn't care, so he's not going to have the bust option.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it has to stop at some point, but I don't see it stopping now. I've never seen his running fade. And he had such goofy, burfy broad jumps. Now they got better. And he had such terrible wall ball form. Now it got better. Like
he's a triathlete. What do you want from him?
No, it's a compliment to him. He just he has more things to improve than everyone around him. And he doesn't have to worry about his running. So he just keeps improving them and he keeps getting better. And I like where he's at.
I was looking back at some results. I don't even know why I was looking at these results, but I was Chicago Open, the open race in Chicago last year at the North American Championships. And Pelayo was the top overall finisher in like 59 minutes. And now he's running 57 mids in pro. Like, that's just like showing what kind of improvement that he's developed. It's incredible to have your pro time faster than your open time when you're already like elite. It's crazy and not big. Like, maybe that happens to like a bigger, stronger athlete, that there's not a big spread like that. But he's the guy. Lauren, you're up again.
Back to women, and my podium pick to take third spot behind Lauren and Meg. Now, this could go either way between three women, I think, but I'm going to pick this one as a bit of a wild card option in Lauren Griffiths.
Ooh.
First reach of the day.
I like it.
I know, like, Linda's consistency has been undeniable. Like, she's been absolutely phenomenal and she's got the experience of years gone by, but we're traveling in a big way. And we know the impact that going to Chicago had on the Europeans and going to Stockholm and Vienna had on the Americans. So I'm working a little bit based on that. She's had some, I think she won Los Angeles. She won another American one in Houston or Dallas. My brain escapes me. She was in the top 3 to 4 the majority of that race in Vienna until she passed out.
Where was that? Because I couldn't believe she was like, I figured it fell apart earlier than it was, but when I rewatched the race, she was there at Farmers.
Yeah, it was much later on.
She was grinding.
And she proved that she could be in the fight with all of those girls, and with the travel aspect included, I think we might see something special from her. And then obviously going and getting the world record with Lauren Weeks the day after passing out at Vienna, I think that proves that she's well capable of being within this group.
Well, it proved that Lauren's a bad teammate. She shouldn't expect that out of someone who just had a medical emergency.
It's like,
when she was going to the medics, like, look, I want to continue. The medics were like, no.
That's
and
crazy.
Then she had to get medically checked before continuing. And eventually they were like, okay, you're okay. You can do it. Just please be careful.
It makes me worried because sometimes you tell yourself during a workout or a race, like, come on, don't be weak. You're not actually going to pass out. Now you know it's an option.
Also shows an element of mindset. Like when you're in that game, in that zone, how far you can push your body, how far she's willing to go to perform. And I spoke to her ahead of Vienna, and she was, she's gunning for a qualification spot. She's not here just to have a fun time with the Elite 15.
And that's something that we have seen from her. She's even done some of the OCR races in the last year, like 3K series. She has no problem sticking her nose in it as someone who is less known in that space. And Deca Fit the same thing. She went out to win that race. And maybe she went out a little bit too aggressive in Vienna, and some adjustments, and she would be easily in that top 3 to 5. So
that was her debut E15, right? Like that's the learning one
for sure.
So, you're coming back, you're kind of at home, loose term. Now you can put it into practice.
Yeah, right. Without the travel. Yeah, I mean, she could very well get third.
And it shouldn't matter, but physically, the way she moves as an athlete, it looks good.
Mm-hmm.
She looks the part. And generally, good mechanics are stable mechanics that are more trusting and more reliable. She just seems like someone that is going to have a breakthrough.
Yep. I like it. Good pick.
But I don't like it.
BK, who do you got? What do you got?
Rich Ryan.
Come on, bro.
Just kidding. Ryan Kent.
Come on, bro.
So close yet so far, Rich.
You got to take Kent here. The reason I wanted to pick first or not pick third, I figured Kent would be the one that's there. Every time I draft him, he does absolutely terrible. So I would just told myself I'm not going to draft him this time. Didn't expect Lauren to go Pelayo.
No.
Didn't expect that one.
I mean, has he ever gone back-to-back disappointing races? I don't think so. He's so fit, and you know better than us. He's so fit. He's in a compromised state emotionally right now. Mm-hmm. There's no way around dealing with the loss of a parent, especially someone who's such a strong figure in your life. There's no way to ever quantify how that's going to affect you, but he's still the best guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, last time he had a letdown was in Chicago last year, and 3 weeks later in Houston, he ran a huge PR. And it was just like some tactical adjustments. And at that time last year, he had some life stressors as well in Chicago that kind of cleared up. The stress like that we're referring to this year, probably not going to clear up, quote unquote. It's still going to be around. But now that he's had a little bit more time to get back in his routine, staying home, again, the travel's not part of it. It was just like an impossible circumstance that he was put in last time. He went to a funeral on Monday and then traveled to Vienna on Wednesday. So if there is ever a result that we can't put too much weight into, I think it's Ryan Kent's result in Vienna. So
Absolutely.
Good pick. And it's worth noting this field of men is not strong at the top. We talk about the tiers that are in Hyrox right now. Maybe there's 5 athletes that are in a tier above. And I think Kent's the only one here that we could say historically is in that tier. Maybe Pelayo will be in it after this, but it's been, without Alex, without Rylan, without Hunter, like it's Kent.
Well, there's only 2 men in this field, correct? Three who have a major podium in any sort of championship scenario.
You counting me?
Lucas, I suppose, 4.
Come on, man.
Top 3?
I got 3 North American championships 2 years ago.
Statute of limitations
Come
run out on that one, man. You
on.
can't
Yeah, we
milk
got
that
Magida out
forever.
there. Come on, you got to get your studying up. Where you at?
Magida,
Magida, Lucas,
Kent, Pelayo, Lucas, 4. You don't
Me.
count.
Come on. I was on that podium.
Yeah, you were.
Sure was. But yeah, I suppose that's true. I suppose that's right.
It's almost
Dylan
what makes this
was
race so
second.
exciting.
Dylan was second at North American Championships 1 year too.
That's right.
Come on. Oh man, I'm up. I haven't even been thinking about this. What am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? I'm going to take Linda Meyer for show. She's having just like an exceptional season where we've spoken about her at the World Championships when the year that Chris Rogloski won, and that was kind of like the missed opportunity, right? And then she comes out in 2023, sets the world record twice, and now is just back into consistent form after a disappointing end to last season, and is just in the mix. She was racing Lauren Weeks in Stockholm, and she came over and showed that she can be on the podium internationally. So I think that she's coming over here for a reason, right? So she's going to put her best foot out there.
I think consistency is exactly the word for this season for Linda. Like, not just in results, but in how she's attacking every race as well. Like, she's so unbelievable. And even if she knows she's maybe not going to be up there at the beginning, she knows she filters in around kind of burpee broad jumps kind of territory, and she's up there for the remainder of the race. She's been so impressive all year. And I think she's just one of those ladies we tend to overlook. So we're always so focused on Meg and Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
But oh my God, what a story of the season has Linda been.
What's her training like? Do you know much of her story in training, Lauren?
No, I really don't. She's actually one of the few athletes that I haven't spoken to like properly. I had a proper sit down with, which we're hoping to do for Worlds, by the way. A little tidbit of info. But I love that she also races with her mum. Have you met her mum? Her mum's at every single race.
What?
Her mum is the fittest lady I've ever seen in my entire life. She was collecting a podium in front of me when we were in Vienna the other day.
What? Is she going to come over to this one?
Yeah, I think so. She's at all of them. Her and her dad.
No way. That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
All right. We're doing it.
Big moment.
We're taking me here. Give me me. First male pick. I take me.
Your third round draft pick is yourself.
That's
First
it?
man, though.
You know, yeah, and the first male. Big call. You know this is coming up in the live stream, don't you?
Yeah. Last time
he picked in fifth. He picked himself fifth, and he came fifth, right?
And now,
and he called you out for it on the podcast too. He said she questioned it. I told her what was up.
I didn't question it. I just said it.
She was like, "I'm bringing this up to let you know that I think you're stupid." I said,
it's a ballsy move.
I said, I get it. Well, if you look at it, I got fifth in that race in Chicago. No Rylan, no Alex. Kent, Pelayo.
Third. Yeah.
Third. That's how that works.
I see how your brain is operating.
Addition by subtraction.
And if I'm looking at, I got to get a man on here somewhere. And again, I'm looking at
But you'll settle for you?
Like, yeah. I mean, it could be literally any one of these guys. Maybe not anyone, but it could be like 6 guys filling in this spot.
Well, Rich Ryan is waiting on his Pelayo moment. It's coming. We know it's going to happen.
Oh, I mean, we had definitely tipped it to happen in Vienna, Rich. So no pressure.
Oh, did you? See, that's the problem. International travel. That shit is hard.
It's not the one, is it?
It's not.
Well, and we've seen this over and over again, that a difficult Hyrox is often followed by a very good Hyrox.
Mm-hmm.
And a big block of training results in, I think there's just too many variables to time it well every time. There's too many moving pieces, and we just either miss by a bit, or fatigue's not where we want it to be, or travel tips us over and we're not able to access that piece that's needed. And then you turn around 2 or 3 weeks later and crush it. And so we have a lot of people in that boat here. Dylan just did it. You're hoping for that.
Yeah.
David Makita's hoping for that. Ryan Kent's hoping for that.
JK,
you have a lot
Graham.
yeah, everyone's sitting
JK
in that.
probably.
All right, maybe that was the rust buster I needed, or just that little final piece of fitness that it builds on a race day. That you're primed, you're ready, you got the shoes, you got the right shoes, and we
got
know
the
that.
shoes, light sleds. The for me, if I was like critical,
to clarify, not light sleds, just
same
new
weight sleds,
slippy sleds.
New sleds are gonna slide across that carpet. I'm just gonna like full arm push it.
Hollywood sleds.
Hollywood sleds.
So yeah, if I was being critical of myself, I would just be like, where is the mindset? Like when I have strong races, I have a different mindset than when I'm kind of like middling, and having like these wake up calls are what kind of helps me elevate that. Where if it's just, I don't constantly have it, is something I've learned about myself. It needs to be a wake up call. It needs to be facilitated. It needs to be like nurtured. And I feel good on that aspect leading into this race. So I take me. Damn it.
Love it.
BK, what you got?
Well. I think I'm torn here. I really am.
It's tough. I took your pick. Should have picked
I'm
me
gonna go
instead
with
of Kent.
Viola.
Okay.
Her nose has been in the fight throughout the year. And it's happening here. Now, she's also breaking my rule, which is only Americans here. I'm fully in on Hyrox on home soil. But I'll just go Americans all the way out here. She looks good to me so far this year. I'm a believer. The same way that we just know Linda's going to be up in it. I believe that same thing about Viola here.
The most impressive thing about Viola is how much she wants it and how her life is so full on. She has like an 8 till 6 p.m. job every day. She wakes up in the morning, goes, trains before work. She doesn't drive. She has to cycle everywhere. So she cycles to the gym, trains for an hour and a half, 2 hours, cycles to work, does a job, cycles to the gym, trains for an hour, 2 hours. And she does that every single day because she wants this. And I think it's hard to overlook that pure passion to make something happen.
Yeah. And her race week's not going to be worse this time. I hope, for her sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has to travel a little bit, but it's not a crazy travel. And she gets to come back in time, which is a little better for racing. But she's, in theory, not going to get hit by a car this week. She should do better than she did in Vienna.
I was so impressed with how she raced in Vienna. That we've seen her in the first 2 majors be a little bit too aggressive from what I would consider within her ability, and she paid for it. And in Vienna, she was still aggressive and then really hung on. After a rough burpee broad jumps, I thought she was going to be coming backwards. I thought athletes were going to start catching her, but she was really tough and really, like said, Lauren, it became clear that she does want this and she's willing to sit and suffer. And again, she was at that same time with the year that Linda got second, Chris Rogowski won. Viola came into that as what I would have considered the favorite for that race. So, I mean, maybe that's fueling her too. Maybe this is something that she wants to get out over here and prove it, that she is one of the best. And she's had a lot of momentum after Vienna. So I like it. Good pick. Lauren, what you got?
I'm contemplating.
It's not that easy.
No, it's got harder now, I would say. Camila Massa for me.
Rich wanted that.
Dang. But I
a
guess
little bit of
right.
everything. I think the travel plays a huge part. I know we're going back in time, as you mentioned, but it still plays a huge part. She's over here. You never have 2 bad performances in a row, or it's unlikely to happen. She obviously really underperformed to her own expectation over in Vienna. And we know the times that this woman is capable of, and it's well up on podium contention. And I think that she will want to prove something to herself this week after what happened in Vienna.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick for that spot too. When you look at it on paper, right? It's between Lauren and Camilla. If there is one spot, say it goes chalk, like Linda and Viola are also in the top 4. It's going to be between those two, and they have the most to race for. Both have something to prove coming off of Vienna.
I mean, arguably Camila more comfortable in this environment, having had the kind of experience this year behind her over someone like Lauren. Maybe I got those two the wrong way around, but
this will be her third major of the season. And what she's capable of, I don't think we've quite seen yet.
She trains with you guys a bit, doesn't she, Rich?
Yeah, she has like 2 locales. She's in Florida sometimes, and she's in Colorado other times. Yeah, so I know her very well, and I know that things aren't sitting well with how last race went, and she does have a lot to prove here. So from a mindset perspective, I think she's going to be aggressive and, yes, wanting to really put it out there.
I mean, there are times, aren't there? But I think 90% of my picks are literally based on how I think their mental approach is going to be to racing.
That's it.
And it's all guesses. Like, I don't speak to them. Like, I don't know how they're feeling, but you can take solid guesses. And when you're looking for that, like that 1-2% that's going to make the difference between going on broken on something, for example, that's what's going to win it for people.
Hyrox is too difficult to not be focusing on the mental side. Most races, you can just sit for a while and chill out on your fitness until the real racing starts. It starts immediately. You can't get past 10 minutes without being in significant pain. And that's weird for racing.
Yeah. It's like you put yourself in a hole. How long can you stay there?
Yeah, it's a different sport, and the mindset matters here.
Who else?
Oh, do I go again?
You going again.
You can pass if you like.
Oh my gosh.
We get one blocker.
No, I will not pass. This has got even harder because I've taken for me, what was probably the easier one. But now I look at the lads, and there's 5, I would say, in the next group.
Right. Could be anyone.
Oh.
And a bunch of athletes we haven't seen.
No.
In this environment.
I'm sticking to my American vibes.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast.
Go America.
Yeah. Damn
right. And it's a complete, I get oh no, he's going to be gone. Okay, it's a complete wild card because I would say we've not seen anywhere near the best of him for a year and a bit. But Dylan Scott with his 55 something last week, he's clearly hitting a peak of his training right now. The light sleds will suit him, or the slippy sleds will suit him.
Underweighted sleds. You heard it here.
I keep saying it wrong. You know what I mean? We're using the new equipment.
New sleds.
It's going to slide well. Yeah. Dylan Scott, the hardest worker in any freaking room. That man's never not on a machine.
As we speak, cycling, staring at a wall.
Yeah, of course he is.
No, this is a great pick. I mean, like, that would be, if I didn't take me, this would be the pick that I would take. And his performance, we talked about it just a second before you popped on, Lauren, is like how impressive that really was. And you can explain away some athletes' fast times because of fast sleds, but like he was fast everywhere all the way through that entire race. And you don't just get a 55 on accident. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
He runs within a minute of that.
Sorry.
No, you're good. If he's within a minute of that, this is a smart pick. He's within 90 seconds of that. This is a smart pick.
It's a great pick.
He doesn't even have to PR for this to be a great pick.
Chances are that he won't. We don't know what the format is going to look like or how that's all going to be, but yeah, he could definitely be on that podium.
He needed to, having not been really in contention to even qualify for a major most of the year, apart from that first one, he needed a marquee performance. And he went out and he took it. And I think that says a lot about him and his ambition to qualify for Worlds.
Yeah. Most people, I'd be nervous racing back-to-back weeks. His
workload. This is just quarter of a Tuesday for him.
Yeah.
He's going to go and hike a mountain later and maybe cycle 100K.
My worry with him is that he won't treat it with respect and he'll do too much this week.
That's always like, we don't know how he's gonna be physically prepared to do all of the work, but like how, like where's the recovery? Does it matter that much? Have we seen inconsistent performances from him in the past because of this? Like how he's dialed in with what he believes is working, but that's always going to be the question, right? It's like where he's riding that line and which way will it tip for him?
I mean, you guys are way more into this than I am, this side of the sport, but like, I don't think we've really found out what works the best for Hyrox yet.
100%.
And what gets the best out of performances.
100%.
But I think it says something when other pro level athletes are astounded by the work you put in.
Yeah.
It's
well,
hard to impress the top end of the sport, and everyone looks around going, I couldn't do what he does.
I work in a lot of sports and I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah.
And that's
And
coming
yet
from
he probably has the biggest improvement I've seen in this sport, other than all versions of our sport, other than I think Johnny Luna Lima. Like, to go from fairly average, like high-end average, to world level, you don't see those progressions, and it gives hope to I think the everyman out there that if you're willing to be a psychopath, you can go a long way.
But it also like it leads into Rylan Shadeg as well, and how he approaches life and training.
Yeah.
Like, I think you potentially Pelayo, when he was a triathlete, having that absolute base of volume clearly pays off in the sport.
Absolutely. BK, what you got?
Well, kind of screwed now. No, I'm not. I'm good. I'm going no more Americans ever again, since all the Americans I wanted. No, I'm gonna go with the pick I made last time. I'm just making a little later in the draft here. Lucas Storath.
There it goes.
Old man strength is only going to keep getting better. He's not going to fade. He got that taste of going against the competition again. He felt what the new day and age is like, and he wasn't that impressed. He's thinking, I can still do this. Now he has a ponytail. Life's a little bit different. He's ready to go.
The speed pony.
That's right. Most aerodynamic.
Rich, you better start growing that bad boy out.
That's long past. Can't make it work anymore. Former world champ. You have one on your team now.
That's right.
Two of them.
He looks every ounce an athlete, doesn't he? Like, he looks like with a few more weeks under his belt, he's going to do some damage.
It's going to be really interesting to see how, well, outside of just the travel, like how the European based athletes do perform when we have these sleds that we are projecting that are going to slide better, right? Because generally they have historically slid better in Europe. So the style of racing might not change the way that it has changed when they've come over to the States in the past, where the sleds kind of punch in the mouth. So with these guys that are very aggressive up front, like Lucas is an aggressive racer. He's going to be in that top like 3 to 5 coming into sleds. And if there's like the field is able to kind of close it, or I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
It really will be.
I'm up.
There's so many people still there. You'll be fine.
I'm going to take Gabe Heck.
That's early, but I like it.
This is, I mean, when I look at this competition, he's somebody that makes me nervous as a competitor. So like, that's the reason why I want him on my team. Like, just, he has all the physical components, and he can run, he's strong. It's just like the experience. And he lives in Thailand. This is where we need Jack. Lauren, you know where he lives?
No,
you got to fill in. You got to fill in for Jack on this.
I'm sorry, I can't give you that today.
He lives far away from where this race is taking place. And I don't think he's here even now. I think he is going to have a very short turnaround from the time that plane lands for him pushing that sled. So what is that going to do? I would imagine it's going to be difficult, but he's someone on here who I think has the ability to be one of the best Hyrox competitors in the world. So we're just going to see. He's from Wisconsin.
Instant advantage. He's 6'5", a legit D1 distance talent.
Yeah.
And he knows how to move weight. And he hasn't been supremely challenged yet. That's always a big question. What happens the first time you run into a buzzsaw? Do you get knocked down and you go shell shock? Or do you realize that you just had more waiting? And that's, for me, that's the thing I'm most excited for a few of these gentlemen. It's just to see them face the top dogs and find out what we have now.
I guess the best competitor he's faced is he did beat James JK last year in Hong Kong, but had that penalty, had the minute penalty that made his time. Like he crossed the finish line before him, but he went out the in or whatever. But that's not really an advantage. Or I think it's just the travel. He should do well. Again, we've seen when he did run real well was with those Hong Kong sleds. I'm excited for him. Go Wisconsin. What's the state nickname of Wisconsin?
Gabe Heck State. No,
that's the Gabe Heck State. So he's
it must be
ready.
something to do with cheese.
We're America's Dairyland, that's for sure.
No, 100%. Like cheese curds, like Wisconsin's greatest export.
I loved when, like CrossFit tried to do a nod to Wisconsin by making their sandbags yellow. They're like cheese curds,
over the hay bales.
None of us were mad. Like, yeah, okay.
Like, hey, get some
Honestly,
beer out
I loved
there
it there. I was there for the games this year. I was like, it was a beautiful place to be.
Okay. Yeah, I'm about an hour away from there in Milwaukee.
Oh, so you're not really there.
Well, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was saying from Madison.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm taking a world champ with this pick. I'm taking Chris Rogloski.
She's fresh. She only ran, what, 80K?
That's nothing for her. A long flight across the country is no problem. That is certainly something to consider here. But looking at this coming off, I think she finished 7th in Vienna, I believe. And we know Chris can turn around and improve in a Hyrox from one race to the next.
And she was with 4th with 2 stations to go.
She had a shot to qualify last time. Yeah, that was again what made it so impressive with Viola holding her off and kind of extending the lead on her. But yeah, Chris wants this. I mean, she's going after Hyrox where she doesn't need to. You know? So I like it. I like where her position is here. She's doing what she loves. She's traveling around, racing. I think that's when she's at her best. So most other athletes, I'd be like, this is too early. She's going to be exhausted. Not Chris.
I agree with that.
We've seen in previous years with Chris as well that she seems to gear up in the second part of the season. And confidence levels. I spoke to her in Vienna and she was like, last year I came into racing and I was really unconfident in what I was doing. I'd had a bit of an injury and I was trying to rehab back from that. And I wasn't sure where I was at, where I spoke to her ahead of the last race. She was like, I am up for this. This is what I want. I feel great about where I'm at with my training. And like you said, she was well within that top 5 for the majority of the race.
And you figure sleds that move well will be an advantage for her, or it would take away a disadvantage, I suppose.
Yeah, and she falls right in line with that. I know I'm fit. I didn't quite pop like I wanted to. All right, you have a couple more weeks. Let's do it. I think she's right up there with all those people that had that same experience in Vienna. And we saw it with Rylan. There's a certain type of athlete that when they go overseas and come back and then they're in Dubai and then they come back, like they're fine. And she is that archetype. Right. There are many people, myself included, I wouldn't wish that upon. Every weekend she's off somewhere. This isn't that different for her.
That's a good comparison is with the Rylan and how well he did perform in Chicago, because that's basically the same kind of circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, nice.
Thank you for making me feel better about the pick. Thank you, BK. Top level analysis as always.
Well, in that same vein, I'm taking JK. He was as fit as he's ever been heading into Vienna. Had his least on paper impressive performance of the majors yet, but I don't think that was the sign of decline. I think it was the sign that he's about to be better. I have a small little insight into his training, and it was going better than ever into Vienna. He wasn't trending the wrong way, and so that tells me that he's going to pop here. And he's done it. He's already raced in the U.S. well this year. That's not the question. And he's a whole time zone closer than he was the last time he raced in the U.S. He'll handle the travel well. His fitness is good. He's a consistent racer. I like how cerebral he is on course. And now you add in a little bit of emotion that I'm upset with how last time went.
This is a bit like there's at least 3 spots available. This is a bigger opportunity than the last chance qualifier. These athletes who are coming over cannot be like, well, I got this other race coming. Like, no, this is kind of it.
For the Europeans, especially, because potentially in Cologne, you only have one space in your LCQ. Like, at least if you're an American, you have potentially 2 at Anaheim.
2, yeah.
But like, given the people who've stayed behind, Cologne is a real, like, it's a genuine last chance qualifier. It's a real long stretch. You need to take advantage of the potential 3 spots out in DC.
Like you said, did perform well in Chicago, so maybe the travel isn't something. He's mentally strong in that capacity, so I think that yeah, I like the pick.
You're talking about a dude that used to fly over from Australia for every single race.
Right.
Like, the dude can travel.
Seriously. All right, Lauren, who you got?
Oh, I am going to go with Alina Villeneuve.
Nice.
On my ladies' side.
I like it.
Young, consistently middle pack, the future of the sport, getting better and better over time since mid last year when we saw her come through to world champs. Will she break through into a potential top spot in DC? It'd be great to see if she could qualify here, but I think we'll see her at world champs, and I think we'll see her in the top 5.
At world champs or here?
No, here.
Okay. Yeah, because she was just on the outside. I think where Rebecca Mason qualified in Stockholm, I think Elena was 6th, so I think she had a shot. So she's been just right around the cusp. I think
she's been like a 6th and a 7th, and then had one worse race, and then
I think so.
Yeah.
So I like that too. Like, you have the contenders you have on the women's side are athletes who are going to need to race for something. You're doing that,
I'm on the
mental
bubble,
edge,
right?
Smart.
They're not the ones that you go, oh, you're out and out winners. They're the ones on the bubble who need to get a top 5 position.
Yes. So they're either going to press themselves into a place they've never been and have the best race of their year, or they're going to blow up like crazy.
Yeah. Arguably, I should have confirmed, having not done a draft before. Are we drafting for the top 3, or are we drafting for qualification?
Oh, yeah.
I might have approached this all sorts of wrong.
We didn't even talk about it. The way that it's scored, it's that you add up your top, I guess we'll do 7, or no, that'd be too many.
Be 5.
We'll do 5 or 6. We gotta figure that out. And then the lowest point total in your finishes. So you add up all your finishers, and whoever's the lowest wins.
Cross country style scoring. First place is 1 point, second is 2, so on and so forth.
Okay.
And it's a mixed gender team.
Yep.
To balance out, because I've just done it with the women, to balance out my heavily, I know Pelayo's obviously Spanish, but Graham Halliday for me, I think.
All right.
I like it.
Tight between him and Megida, being hometown hero and a total legend. But Graham narrowly missed out to Thomas Tudvig in Vienna. I think he's expected more from himself this entire season, and has been still kind of working out what that looks like in reality. And I'm hoping, even with the travel, it comes together for him in DC. You could see how visibly, like, heartbroken and crushed he was that he lost out by seconds to securing a qualification spot in Vienna. Like, I think this will be the reaction we keep talking about.
He had a pretty good race there, though. He did
have a good race.
He was further back, right? And he kind of worked his way up.
Yeah, he came throughout the race, and it all got lost on the warbles between him, Tim Vinish, and Thomas Tudvig, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tim went crazy. Hit like 80 in a row or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's where he lost it.
Bummer. Not what you want. But yeah, you could tell he was really grinding out there. And for him, bigger, stronger athlete, not same weighted sleds that will move a little bit better.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's not necessarily an advantage for him, but if he can have more juice in his legs for the back half of the stations, that should be better. And yeah, his fitness is just improving over time, and he needs it. He needs this one.
They all need it.
Yeah. Good pick. PK.
Well, that leaves me an athlete I keep picking because I keep waiting for the breakthrough. Dr. Alondra Greenlee.
All right.
I'm a believer. I know the season hasn't gone probably as she's hoped. Probably dating back to Decafit World Championships, but it's there. And it's going to come out at some point. And she's going to be on my team when it does.
I mean, her fitness is going to be good no matter what. It's just a matter of how well she's able to run.
Yeah.
just like dealing with injuries. Like if her running volume is up even like a little bit, she's going to be a real problem at her. Finished 4th at World Championships 2 years ago. Yeah, Deca, strong world champion. I like it. Home easy. She'll probably drive there.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. What do we do now?
You have someone at home right now just stewing over us not picking him.
I know it, and I'm taking Colin Stiefer because of it.
I like it.
Taking Colin, and then
he was my wild card.
Colin's like just good.
Just solid.
He's just solid. His stations are going to be like he'll probably come into the row in the bottom 5 and will come out in the top 5 into the ski. I'm sorry, not the row. Right from the start, and like
he's big on the machines, right? And he
can smash machines. He can crush the wall balls. Like if he's around, if the running doesn't take him out of it, he has a real shot to be in this top 5.
Yeah, he says it's been his main focus, the running recently.
Yeah, he's aware of his skill set. He's an intelligent athlete. He's not just going to rest on his machines. He's working on his running.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he had that breakthrough, 58 low, 58.15 or something like that,
right?
In Chicago.
Now Chicago, and that we all know that those sleds were a little different in Chicago. But he's going to get something else that moves this weekend. So
it's just
if you run 58 low, you're in the mix in some capacity.
Absolutely. It's just the running, like how fast it will be. But again, because this field is not top heavy, the guys who make these races so aggressive, they are Hunter, Alex, Sandy, who just go out like insane people from the start. We don't really have anybody like that who's going to press this pace and blast it from the start. So like the runners, the people who might not be interested in running fast early, I think will be in contention later than what they might be in a race with Hunter and Alex in it.
That's interesting.
Such a great, it's a great talking point, right? Like then it becomes a tactical degree is how hard or far do you push the field in the early few laps. Love it.
We're going to be looking at Kent.
The men we missed out on, they're the ones that push.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have men here capable of winning from the back, which you're going to have people finding themselves in the mix. And that's almost like you can't measure that, what that does to an athlete to be in the front, both good and bad. But it's going to be really fun to watch people be in a position that they're not accustomed to being in.
Right. Like, because the field is probably going to look at Kent and cue off of him, and he'll take the lead if it's a pace that he wants to run, but he won't assert himself into the front. It might be Playa.
It might, but Kent's been known.
Oysam, maybe. He's going to be quite an aggressive runner.
And Lucas will probably hammer. And JK's gone out past a couple times, but I think he's just gone with the field. Now speaking of athletes who go out hard, I'm going to take the opposite. I'm going to take Dave Magida.
He had to go at some point.
Hometown, man. He's gonna be the Alex Ronkovich of this race. Just crowd.
I really hope he is going to be the Alex Ronkovich of this race.
People are going to be fired up for him. He's going to have his whole community out there. I mean, like, Alex just lives in Vienna. Like, David is like a community staple with like a gym and that trains people for Hyrox. There could potentially be hundreds of people here supporting Magida on Friday night.
They sometimes have over 100 people at an event across the country. at their home event, It's guaranteed to be hundreds. There's just one question mark in the air with him.
It's like, how healthy is he?
How healthy? He had to have a procedure done this week. Now it's designed, not going too far into his medical, but it was not like an emergency. It was designed to help him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he had his knee scoped or something where it's going to take some time to recover. He's in theory better for it, but no one ever has a procedure done because they feel so great.
Look at all the American men on my team.
He's been managing his back for the last 2 years, right? And it's what it keeps coming back and harming him when he needs to push the most. I feel for him so much because he knows, like, on a good day he can be right up there, and he just has this niggle that will not go away.
And a field on his best day against this field, I think he can be top 5. On his worst day, I think he gets like 8th. I don't think he gets 10th.
We've seen him walk.
No, I agree.
Because he'll start pulling people back who are falling off the back of the top pack.
But we saw this the first time we saw his back act up was at European Championships, and he came back and won North Americans.
True.
He can do this. He can beat every single one in this field because he's done it. We just don't. It was just like we talked about with some other people. We don't know which version we're getting. But he's a great value pick here. And what? Yeah. Your 7th pick?
Mm-hmm. What you got, BK?
He's gonna hate it.
He'll always hate it, but he'll take it. Hopefully, he takes it as fuel.
I'd like Jess Towell.
All right. Oh, all right. She had her qualifying time in Dubai, where she dropped like a really fast time, kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I don't know too much about her.
She's got some background in sport, but she's kind of just like for me, the Gabe Heck of this on the female side, where I'm excited to see her race the top dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Dubai hasn't shown to be crazy fast.
This last one was pretty fast.
Well, how different could the setup have been? It couldn't have been different equipment, right? Like we saw Lauren over there. We've seen Kent over there.
Kent over there is Salto 59.
Like they run fine.
That time in particular was like really fast.
Yeah, it might be, but people would look at that with Dylan as well.
For sure.
Like there are some. I'm just not writing it off. I'm tilting further towards believer than skeptic with Jess. And I'm excited to see her against women who are going to allow her to run a fast time if she's capable of it.
I like it.
So I can give you a little bit of Jess insight because she is from the CrossFit world. She set a world record time in 333, which is a 3,000 meter row, 300 double unders, 3-mile run workout.
She wasn't at the games that year though, was she? She just did it on her own.
I think she has been. That would have been it wouldn't have been in the Open. It would have been maybe semifinals or back in those days regionals. But basically, long story short, she was a pretty, a solid indie CrossFit athlete who dislocated her shoulder and has since tried to find something new and has found Hyrox clearly suiting her endurance-based strengths.
That's great insight. High level. We're out here like,
only world record holder
CrossFit?
in the field?
What's CrossFit?
World record holder in the field? And that's not true. Not the only one.
One other.
I guess I guess you wouldn't call it a world record. You call it like, the top time in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this sport.
Not in this sport.
Everyone in Hyrox has a world record of some sort. I got 2.
I kind of like it.
Rick's
it gives us a
got
lot
2
to analyze.
I got 2 of them.
What's your world record?
Well, I had doubles with Pelayo, since you asked.
Yep.
Thank you.
That is true. You did. Sorry, I take it all back.
But now it's like.
But now it's confusing because we've got the pro one. Yeah.
I know.
So does it count?
I mean, the way that people count their world records here at Hyrox. Oh yeah.
We have his tombstone.
Big time. And relay. Come on. Men's relay.
The most standardized event in all of Hyrox. The Hyrox relay.
Prestige, sir. All right, Lauren, you're up.
Oh, Christ. Am I? Sorry.
You got 2.
Right, where am I at?
A man and a woman.
Hello. Right. So Maria Fessick for my woman.
Shoot. Good pick.
She has the most experience in this field at this level. And honestly, I don't know masses about the remaining female athletes.
Mm-hmm.
She has raced against a lot of the women in the field, so she'll know how to handle kind of the pace out the gate. She'll know how to work her way through who to kind of base herself off to a certain extent. And I think the only other athlete in that list is maybe Rebecca Nather, who has also raced this season.
Mm-hmm.
If I was going, Maria Fessick for me. But if you haven't heard the story of Amy Bilavacqua, you need to that
She's
whole
amazing.
story is amazing.
She's amazing.
So amazing.
I like this Maria pick. Like I was hoping she'd make it back. I kind of would put her in the same category as athlete as like a Zara and a Kate
Yeah,
Davey. I think that
I
she would be
completely
competitive.
agree.
You know,
It's all the girls that won pro at last year's World Championships or came top 5
Yes.
at pro in last year's World Championships.
Yes, she was right in that mix.
Yeah.
Just maybe not as many opportunities to race as the other athletes, but she could very well, like I think she will perform better than this. And she's hungry. She wants to do well in this. So I love that pick. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, she's Canadian, right? So up until recently, there's been no racing in Canada. So she's had to travel to every single race, which probably works in her favor coming down to DC.
Should be cool. I think she's Ontario, so it's probably not even far, but I could be wrong.
And male, Geoff Voisin for me. The big French powerhouse with legs as long as tree trunks.
And wide legs too.
He is an animal. Absolute beast on running and ergs, and can put his weight behind a sled if he wants to. I hate to think how much pain he has to go through for wall balls and to hit correct squat depth, but just due to how long his legs are, he's a beast. I ran around the course with him at Vienna with an iPhone in the mixed doubles, and he's really hard to keep up with.
He is so good at the stations.
Yes.
He's like unbelievable at the stations. He had the fastest sled pull by like a considerable amount in Vienna. He's just like a monster.
And he's the sole representative from France. Like, I'm big up, like, get the European community involved. Like, France is something that Hyrox tapping into could be massive for. And he's really like flying the flag for the French community.
Well, that's who I was going to pick next. So guess I'm not too thrilled about it, but he is, and we say it every time, he's just so good on the stations that if he finds himself in any sort of range with lunges and wall balls to go, or even once he gets to the rower, right? He's going to find himself ways into the race rather than ways out of it, which always matters in championship style racing. People are going to crack, people are going to fade. He's not going to be the person moving backwards through the field. So then I will take the misspelled Florian Gast as my pick.
Florine.
That's how I roll. That's the pick here for sure.
Getting on the Florian train here.
If it helps, Afran is also not his name.
No. What is it? I was hoping to just get a copy and paste, and but I had to go ahead and type it. So we're gonna have to live with these spelling mistakes. Jack would be losing it. He couldn't even continue. He'd be like, well, I don't even know what we're talking about. Florian's a good pick, though.
Thank you. That's it. Just one sentence compliment. You're going to move on.
I was throwing it back to you. You say something. You drafted him.
Well, it's still spelled wrong, but
I'm not fixing it.
I lump him in with Joffrey, that he's going to be closing down on people who mismanage. And so I have a few guys at the top who can boom or bust. I've got the JK who's going to sit pretty and move well. And I have Florian who's just going to gobble up the people who mismanage their effort.
He had a really good race in Stockholm. Was it Stockholm? It was the one I didn't cover. And he got in on rollback, and he finished mid-pack, like well above his starting position.
I think this is the biggest value in the entire draft.
You think so?
Yeah. I think he was top 10 at Worlds last year.
Yeah, he was like well up there at Worlds. Him and Tim Venus trained together. Tim's punched his ticket. Like there's going to be an element. I mean, I guess you know, Rich, like Ryan's going, you want to be there as well. There's like that extra motivation when your training partners manage to do it.
And it just keeps showing the power of the deep roll down, and why I really hope Hyrox gets on board with giving people opportunities, because so many times in the sport, we see people who on paper don't have the time to show, but they can just get it done. And the more we can have representatives like this who have proved it correct, the more that I think we have a chance of getting more people into the race.
Yeah, completely agree. I know there was a little bit of like, how's this going to work when we're rolling back so far for majors and getting spots? But what it means is we have this kind of maybe top 10, maybe a bit less, top 8 that are so regular that you build the stories and the interactions with the athletes. But then you have this like wild card 5, and it's of the Paleo rule where anything could happen and you get new faces every single time, and we introduce to new people who we might see come through in the years preceding. It's a great way to get to know the field.
It's amazing to think that he wouldn't even be in this field if he didn't live in Chicago.
It's mad.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He wouldn't have been in any of these, and he's been a top 3 guy the whole year now.
Yeah, finished second.
He'd still be waiting on his chance to try it.
You're probably right.
I love it.
You're probably right. Like if his time that he ran in Madrid, he would have had to run. He could have done something like Dallas or something like that. But still, like chances of running a 55 with the old equipment on, just like it's like not. It's just like very hard to do. All right, I'm taking Amy Bevilacqua here. Yeah, legendary USA. I believe she's in Connecticut, East Coast. I like that. Lauren, give us the story.
She is 50, I believe.
In her 50s.
49 or 50, in her 50s. She is the oldest woman in the entire field. She has 5 children between the ages of 8 and 20 odd. One of them's at college. The rest of them are all hanging about. Her 17-year-old loves to cook and makes all of her meals for her and does her meal prep. And it allows her the time to train. But her youngest is still young enough to want her mum around a lot. So she spends a lot of time with her youngest. And she just has found this perfect but slightly chaotic balance of family life and training enough to qualify for a major race at that age. It's amazing.
BK, is that what you're hoping for? Having the kids just be your training support?
We tried to get them in on like Great British Baking Show, and they're right now like, I need some of these skill sets to start taking hold now, so that they can just take things off my plate and get me back to racing.
BK, baking is not going to help your racing. It's going to hinder it every step of the way, mate.
I'm thinking meat pies and things like that.
You're not thinking ugali. That's all about cakes and eclairs.
I'm not a sugar person, really. I like salt, so I'll be all right with that. But I need them to do something around the house. My oldest is 11 now, and he's just getting to the point where there's no excuse for him not to be the third adult here.
Yeah. So mix up like your nutrition or something. Have something out there. Have them holding bottles for you.
Yeah, or like take care of the other kids or something.
Something. Come on.
Let me cook.
You got to be out there.
Start making money. Support this family, you poor 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna be really fun watching. It's gonna be really fun watching Amy out there racing. I'm glad that she did get this opportunity. Like again, if it was a week previous, I think she's now outside of the 30 with Morgan and Jess moving into it, but has her spot. Amazing story. I'm happy about it. Then I'm taking Harry Thompson.
Harry S. Thompson.
This guy's just good. Like we haven't seen him in any in a major yet, but I think he could have potential the way that Bo Wills has had potential. Like we see him do well in regional races, run fast times. Harry wins races. He wins a lot of the races in the UK. And runs times that are like pretty fast, where UK courses are generally super congested and older sleds. So he could be someone that beats a lot of athletes here. So I'm excited to see what he's got.
I mean, he's going to be the last or second last man off the board, and he will not take last.
No, I think he's going to do really well. I don't really know what his strengths are as an athlete. I haven't necessarily seen a lot, but I know he's been under 60. He's fast enough to get over here. I don't think he necessarily has a running background, but maybe. I don't know.
There's no cupcakes in this field anymore. Enough people do this sport worldwide that if you get in, you're legitimately good.
I know. It's so funny when you do these things, don't you? And you're only looking at like, the best 20 to 30 in the world, and you rank them in this way, and you're like, dude, these guys are so phenomenal to even be in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's to the point where the last pick here is the biggest animal in their gym that anyone in their city knows.
Yeah. The best person, the most fit
biggest
person
animal in
ever
their
met.
city.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the local gyms are like, yeah, that's that guy.
And maybe like the top 3 in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
it's
unbelievable.
Overlooked, is it?
So kind of continuing that trend, Rebecca Nather.
I thought you might do that. That is good news.
I think I have to. Oh yeah, good. You got some inside intel on someone else.
I want to hear about Rebecca.
I just in terms of experience left on the board, I don't know anything about Miss Obank, and Afron. I can only pick one misspelled person per team.
What is his name?
Okay, it's Avan. It's Afan. Avan.
Oh,
but he will be my pick.
I've never heard that name, so how am I supposed to know? That's not
Jack's
a name that we have over here.
Us.
Yeah, this is Jack. Real quick on Rebecca. I'm pretty sure Rebecca was at World Championships in Vegas, so she does have some championship experience here. She ran fast at that Maastricht course, which turned out to be about 2 minutes fast. That's what we're saying, not 4, 2.
I'm still saying 140.
No, 2,
under 2.
Sure. No way. So how do we pronounce his name?
Avan.
Avan.
Like Avan. Avan.
Why is it just not a V? I don't understand.
Because he is Welsh and I live in Wales.
So you know.
He will be the first Welshman to ever run an Elite 15 race.
Amazing.
So therefore, my final pick is Avan Humphreys. I met Avan, loose term met, at a CrossFit competition in 2018 or 19 called Battle of Britain. And he absolutely decimated everyone on the endurance event and put himself into the top 3 and fought for a podium the rest of the year. So I've known him as an endurance athlete for a long time. And then he popped back onto my radar during when Hyrox was first starting in the UK, because he was getting regular top 3 podiums in the UK's Hyrox scene. He was one place out of coming to Vienna. He would have been the next roll down spot for Vienna. And I am just interested to see how he will fare amongst the elite of the elite, because he's been up there in this country for a while. His job's on a building site. He's like a laborer. He doesn't necessarily work in this field like some of the guys. He's a proper down to earth kind of Welsh lad. And I just think it could be a really nice story if he places anywhere in the top 10. It'd be absolutely epic for himself, for the UK, for Wales. It'd be really cool.
Well, I'm excited you got to draft him then.
Yeah.
And I also know I'm probably the only person in the entire world who can say his name right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and also, it wasn't that we were meant to leave, in fact, Annabelle Obank out, but I don't know as much about Annabelle.
It's not a nail.
It's not a nail.
It could very well be. Whatever. We had Jack leaving people's names off previously. I'm doing just as good of a job as he's doing. The Avan would be interesting because he popped a time. His time, like, because he was also at that Maastricht course, and his time just like improved like crazy from one race to the next. So it's nice to see he's taking advantage of the opportunities to get into these majors that since he did get that roll down here. So yeah, it'll be fun to see.
And this is that time, right? Anyone who quote unquote popped a time or had a suspect course, this is their time to prove it all right or wrong.
For sure.
You come out here and you go top 10, and it doesn't matter where you ran your previous time. You've raced your way into legitimacy. And this is a really big moment for those type of people.
All right. Shall we recap the teams?
Yup.
Lauren, you recap yours first.
So very much my ladies are the ones that I think are up next for qualifying spots. I think I've got a massive amount of kind of firepower in those 4 women. Griffith and Master being probably the 2 standouts to take the 1 and 2 qualifying spots, and maybe Alina or Maria taking the 3rd. My boys, Palayo's going to win it. One day I'll learn to say his name right. Palayo is going to win it.
Right.
Palayo's going to win it. If he doesn't win it, Dylan Scott's going to win it. And then we're going to see Graham get his ticket and Joffrey prove that he is well up there in the sport, and he will be for years to come as a beast of a Frenchman. I think we'll see Joffrey race well in one of the last chance qualifiers.
BK, your squad.
Well, when Palayo invariably returns to remembering that he's just a triathlete and he's not strong enough to do this, and when Dylan is not recovered enough, Ryan Kent's going to win this. Lucas Storath and JK are going to storm past a crumbling Rich Ryan.
Impossible.
And punch their tickets. And Lauren's going to do what Lauren does. Viola's going to have her breakthrough. Alondra's going to return to form. And Just Tala is going to say that Dubai was a slow course in retrospect.
Triple three.
Boom.
Hand me the dubs. When there's dubs in Hyrox, she'll be there. Don't worry.
That's right. And Rebecca, I can't leave Ms. Nather out.
Can't.
Wildcard's going to end up scoring for me.
I got them American boys. Me, Gabe Heck, Colin Stiefer, and David Magida going to represent.
Yeah, you are not an international man, are you?
No. Gabe will be flying from an international airport, but he's from Wisconsin. I'm sure he loves cheese curds, as they all do in Wisconsin.
Of course. Birthright.
Then I got Meg Jacoby's going to have a bounce back, and I'm going to be an absolute battle against Lauren Weeks. I cannot wait. Linda Meyer is going to continue with her consistency, being on the podium at every major, right?
Linda, yeah.
Linda, she's been top 3. She's been third at every one. Former world champion Chris Rogowski is going to punch her ticket here. Amy Bevilacqua, the story that we all love, is going to be holding it down for the U.S. as well. And they got Harry Thompson. I think he's going to mix it up. I think he's really going to shake it up for the U.K. And we'll have we'll outkick his coverage in terms of performance.
I felt like you guys needed to do that first, not me, to like set a tone of what was expected for the pump up piece on my team.
Well, we usually just say the names. You actually pumped it up.
Did I set the tone?
You set the tone, which we appreciate here.
Yeah, I was uncomfortable having to match that, to be honest.
So thank you. Lauren, are you now going to be extremely biased in the commentary about your team and be clearly rooting for the athletes who you drafted here?
No, because they can't hear me, so it makes no difference.
I find it unprofessional that you would even come on here and play favorites.
It's brutal.
Yeah, I don't think that was. I think it was a professional conflict of interest to begin with, and I voted against you coming on here.
It might have been a professional conflict of interest, like when Rich Ryan chose himself.
Boom! I'm aligned. That's synergy right there. All synergy.
Everyone's a winner. Whoever ends up on that podium, I am buzzing for them. Whoever has achieved a personal goal, I am buzzing for them. There are no favorites here.
Are you sideline or are you in the booth?
Sideline.
Nice. Same kind of format as last time?
Yeah. I think that's the format that's clearly working well. Because it's where I'd rather be. I'd rather be on the floor, mixing it, kicking it with everybody down there. I think that's kind of like my normal.
Was it your job to press the button to reset the rowers?
No.
Oh, it wasn't your job.
No, of course it wasn't my job.
No.
Interestingly, though, I have just, as I said earlier, worked the indoor rowing championships, and that system is hard. Like, there's full timing teams down, obviously, because there's so many more rowers. When we were doing that, and the amount of times that the system failed was unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah, it's an electric system. Like it's a digital system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when it's all hooked up to broadcast and in Stadia, like the amount of things that can go wrong are just unending. I'd hate to be an actual technician on it. It's very terrifying.
At least we got it out of the way early. Now we know.
It's honestly, it's absolutely everything, right? Everything about this they are lessons learned. Like Hyrox is doing incredible things for the sport by trying to do all of these new things, like live streaming, like bringing integration into the rowing and the skiing, integrating Concept 2, bringing new graphics onto the screen, all of these things. It's all innovation and trying to make the sport better. And inevitably in our first year, there's going to be some things that we're going to learn from. And I think that's understandable for the sake of progress.
Well, prior to that moment, up until that point in time, it was the best live broadcast we've had in our space yet.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even close, really. And so these are high level, like advanced problems that Hyrox is dealing with. And we appreciate the fact that they're reaching.
Yeah, honestly. And every time we sit down and have a production meeting, there are more ideas, more ways to make it better, more ways to bring it forward. So hopefully over in DC, it'll be our strongest one yet.
Yeah, let's see. And we were talking on this show about that, like there are broadcasting mistakes at the highest level, like NBA, NFL games will not be perfect. So of course, as this grows and they're trying new things and trying to improve, there's going to be some hiccups along the way. But we certainly appreciate the effort that you guys put into this, and we really have enjoyed having you part of the community and having it be growing and being able to be seen a little bit more. So I said we were done being nice, but now we're nice at the end because the draft is over.
Oh, thank you so much. Nah, I'm just honestly, I said it to the boys who hire me, like your Mose and Chris. And so like, I feel so privileged to have been allowed in, welcomed with open arms. And I'm able to tell the stories of this amazing group of people because there's obviously crossover with the work I do in other sports like CrossFit. But what you find is it's, you know, everyone's very independent communities. And actually, I feel quite special to be allowed in. And because I have started from scratch to a certain extent. Before World Championships, I ran my first race. Then I did World Championships. And now, like, every time I travel to work, I'll race. And I feel like I'm in it now. I'm part of it. And I completely get. Oh, you're nodding. Rich, I landed on a podium. I landed on a podium in Vienna.
Let's go.
I had a podium.
What are you racing this weekend? Are you racing?
Yeah, I'll race. I'll probably do open.
Nice. Individual?
Indy, yeah.
Let's go.
I don't like pairs scares me. The idea, because my running's my weak spot, right? So the idea of pacing with someone's run, I find really intimidating.
Whereas I thought you did do doubles. Was it relay that you've done?
I've done relay. Okay. Relay's great. Relay's like power output, like short, fast, just get it done. And then I don't mind open because I can cruise around at my own pace on the run and then like go hard on the features. It's not what they're called. I'm tired. It's 7:30 at night over here, gents.
You've done great. You've done
Include
great.
that in this broadcast.
Anything else? Anything else you need to plug?
What should I plug? Guys, make sure you tune in into our live stream.
Tune into the live stream.
I don't know when we're online yet because I'm not totally sure when the races are kicking off. But it'll be sometime Friday evening.
6:20 Eastern, I believe.
We should suggest that our live stream will start around 6-ish. Maybe a bit earlier. Maybe like 5:45 for the build-up.
Cool.
And we have some fun things planned. We're going to shoot some features with athletes and we're going to try and do some interviews as well as me and Greg. Greg being the oracle of all knowledge of everything.
He's got stats.
Oh, sorry. Competing podcast. I get it. You guys are like.
He's international. We're fine.
He's international.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we're very US centric here.
If you couldn't tell by my team.
Could never have guessed
and how I speak.
Well, you're all American team.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Brutal. What about the rest of us?
Afterthoughts.
All right. I think that's it. Well, Lauren, really appreciate you coming on. History in the making. First non-Race Brain member to draft with us. And I think you did great at it.
I feel so privileged. Thank you for having me.
We'll see if you do great. Because, I mean, like, you don't know.
No.
Your team could really
It's probably going to go horribly like all my other like forays into fantasy leagues.
I'm going to be all over the live stream comments.
Don't. Yeah, I never read the comments. I never read the comments. So I won't see any of them.
All right. Well, that's us signing off. We'll talk to you soon.